Good evening. I've got 6:30. We were called to order the Van Alstyne City Council meeting for July 14th. Meeting was duly posted in accordance with state law, and we have a quorum. If y'all will join us as you're inclined for the invocation and the pledges, Councilman Neal's agreed to lead us in the invocation.
Bow our heads. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this day and for the beautiful weather that we've gotten over the past couple of days. Cooling off, we just thank you for the city, the staff. All the people that pour in. And I just pray that as we times that everybody just finds some time to get take some time off, not get so many things that kind of come
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you all. This is the public testimony time. Members of the public are invited to address the city council. I have 3 public comment forms up here. You will have 3 minutes, and we have a new process. So Mike's going to help me out with the 3-minute timer over there. Any topic you wish. First card I have is Commissioner Josh Marr. Welcome, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. Just wanted to make a kind of announcement real quick. I know a couple of months back, the county, along with City of Van Alstyne, City of Howe, and a development which is underneath the Howe Mud #1, we all came together with an agreement to have an ILA to fix Blythe Road between Highway 5 and Highway 75. So first off, thank you, Council, for approving that, because I know a lot of citizens here in the area use that road a lot, especially when school's coming up. Just wanted to make an announcement for anybody who travels that road. We are tentatively scheduling about August 1st that week we're going to close down Blythe Road to do the construction. We're going to try to have it only closed for 2 weeks. The plan is to have it open before school starts. So there will need to be some detours. Find your routes. Please do not go on Blythe Road when it's closed. We're doing a process that should quicken up us getting it built. And for the safety of with as much traffic that goes on that road, I think there was one count of 1,100 cars a day on that road in the condition it currently is. That's a lot. So we're going to try to keep it safe for our citizens, safe for our crew, get it worked, get it done, get it back open as quick as possible so everybody can use that, especially since our service roads are one way now. So just have that announcement. Thank y'all.
Thanks, Commissioner. Clarification question, which I think I'm allowed to do. Currently, once completed, it'll still be 2 lanes.
Correct,
One lane
sir.
each direction. Future plans are for expansion. Is that accurate?
Correct. This will get the road in a good condition as it currently sits, same dimensions, 2 lanes, so one both way. As the development and how Mud #1 goes, they will build a concrete 2-lane road on the north side of the road. So whenever they get to that point, I don't know when, there should be 2 sets of roads going in and out. Then obviously when development happens on the south side with the city, that day will come. But
Yeah, we have a developer here tonight that may speak to that.
Very nice.
So thank you.
Thank y'all.
Thank you, Commissioner. I have Miss Debbie Jackson. Ms. Jackson, welcome.
Hi, I'm a new resident in Lincoln Point, and I just kind of have a question. I need to know who I need to talk to in reference to code enforcement to excessive mowing.
Or lack of mowing?
Lack of mowing.
Okay. Yeah.
At the corner of Lincoln Park and Jefferson,
Yeah,
it's about that high.
okay. So
And that.
it's not on the
they come in-
agenda, so we're
yeah.
not allowed to, I'm sorry, were you finished? I
It's
don't wanna-
it's kind of dangerous to, right there, because they come down Jefferson going towards the city quite fast.
Okay,
So,
understood. Alex, do you want to respond to that?
I was gonna give her my business card.
Yes. Alex Glushko, Director of Development Services, which also means code enforcement,
okay,
falls
awesome.
under his purview.
Thank
And
you.
thank you for bringing that to our attention, Ms. Jackson. I have two persons on the next form, either one or both, Gunter Egger, thank you, and Barbara Biaki, whichever or both of you. Can each get your 3 minutes.
I think I'll just speak today.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mayor and council members and citizens for being here today. I just want to bring a couple of things to the attention of you. I moved here to Van Alstyne a couple of years ago. I actually bought a house about 4 years ago south of, or down the street here of, on the corner of Dallas and West Marshall. And I want to thank Alex. He helped me get the permits on time and rebuild that house. It was probably the ugliest house in Van Alstyne, and I think with the help of others, we made it look a lot better. And I want to thank all of you for doing all the work that you've done on the social district, but that comes at a price. Currently, the erosion or the water flow coming down from the social district and all the construction you've done is destroying our properties on the 200th block of West Marshall. We've met with Tristan. A couple years ago, I met with another public works person. Nothing's been done. There's severe erosion, and it's damaging our properties and damaging our property values. I think on the next meeting, and I'll step back, we didn't come to the last two meetings because Barbara and I and our other neighbors were in high school graduations and other events for our children and grandchildren, so we weren't here to preserve or to present the record and to start the record. And that's my intent here, is to start a record of the things we need done down on the 200th block of West Marshall. It is very disappointing that we've been begging and asking to do some basic work. Unbeknownst to me, right in front of my house on 246 West Marshall, there was some public work done, or some public workers doing the work, and they damaged my sewer line. I didn't know about it. It was until my neighbor, Josh Barton, was able to notify me, and he came here and notified the city, and thanks to Tristan and her employees, they were able to fix it. However, I never saw any public notice that we basically polluted the water. No notice from the city saying to the citizens, hey, don't go on this waterway or this drainage way because sewer water came through. So I bring that to the attention of you because we need some work done. It's ruining our property. Barbara spent over $10,000. She's an 83-year-old widow. When she built that house, she built it to code, put a retaining wall, and that's been destroyed. And no action by the public works yet. And I bring this to your attention, and I want to talk about the budget because I think there has to be good scrutiny over the next couple months as we prepare to do the budget for 2026, 2027, and beyond. I just start picking apart some of the things I saw. I compared City of Sherman Library budget compared to our City of Van Alstyne budget, and some things just stood out to me. And I bring this to your attention because I'm being told by Public Works that there's no money to fix the drainage in our neighborhood. Well,
10 more seconds, if you can
I'll
wrap up.
just say, I would encourage everybody to look at the budget, and I'd also would encourage people to ask, why is the city asking us citizens to sign a release for work that needs to be done? So I'll just pass around the release that was sent to me, Barbara, and Josh, just to see what the city's asking us to release. Why would we release our claims if the city damages our property?
All right. Thank you for your comments and bringing that to our attention. I suspect you'll get some input because I know we're working on it. That concludes our public testimony portion of the meeting for tonight. I will encourage city council and citizens as we go forth through the rest of the meeting to use the microphones, and that includes myself. I will endeavor to do the same. We do have people online, I'm sure, or who will go back and watch this later online, so I'll try to use the mic as much as I can. I would like y'all to do the same. We're moving to the public hearing portion of the meeting. Item 4A is conduct a public hearing to consider, discuss, and act upon adoption of an ordinance amending ordinance number 1064 in the project and financing plan for the tax increment reimbursement zone number 1, City of Van Alstyne, Texas, adopted pursuant to Chapter 311 of the Texas Tax Code to modify the city's tax increment participation to exclude the interest and sinking tax rate. Sherry.
Thank you for having me here this evening. As you know, since TERS 1 was formed in 2024, we've gained a better understanding of the workings of the TERS structure. Based on the information, along with the advice from our financial advisors, such as Robert Hanna, we are recommending the exclusion of the INS debt portion of the property taxes from the TERS contributions. All future TERS are excluding the INS already, based on that recommendation. And as you know, there are two components to the tax rate. There's the maintenance and operations rate, which is used to fund the city's day-to-day operations, and the interest and sinking rate. And these funds are legally dedicated to the repayment of the city's bonded indebtedness and restricted by law for that purpose. And in practice, a number of communities obligate their total tax rates to the tax increments funds, but Zack Tax believes this is a bad policy for at least two reasons. It increases the debt burden for all citizens and businesses not located in the TERS, and it unfairly alleviates a citizen or business from their fair share of the overall public debt just because they are in the TERS. Grayson County has already limited their contribution to just their M&O rate, so this brings the city into alignment with the county participation. And even with this reduction, the zone remains economically feasible and serves the original purpose. Key takeaways include the total fund available for the project decreases by about $55 million, which is about 45%. This means the TERS can fund fewer public improvements over the course of its 30-year lifespan. Conversely, the city's net benefit increases by that amount through the INS rate proceeds. This means the city's INS tax rate will reduce over the life of the TERS as taxable value is properly used to pay for the city's bonded indebtedness. Put another way, all of Van Alstyne's taxpayers will see benefit from the new TERS development. It is important to note that at some point in the future, the contribution can be adjusted upward as deemed appropriate. However, this is the only opportunity to decrease it and remove the INS portion while we still have no contractual commitments against the TERS. Any questions?
Questions from council before we go for a public hearing? Thank you, Sherry, for going through that again for those members of the public who were not here for the TERS meeting 27 minutes ago. So this is the time for a public hearing on this issue. If any member of the public would like to make a comment regarding the city's action to amend our TERS collection method, this is the time to make comment. Second call for comments. Seeing no one seeking recognition at this time, I will close the public hearing on the TERS and turn it over to council. Would anyone from council like to make comment, question, or a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Got a motion from Councilman Neal to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Councilman Williams has seconded the motion. Got it right this time. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 5 votes to 0. Thank you, Sherry. Item B on our public hearings is conduct a public hearing and consider, discuss, and direct staff to prepare an ordinance regarding a request to rezone approximately 69.2 acre tract of land from C2 Commercial District General to Planned Development District PD with an underlying designation of C2 Commercial District General and MF Multifamily Residential District in order to modify development standards to allow for commercial development and multifamily development generally located on the northwest corner of US 75, Henry Hines Expressway, and FM 121 Van Alstyne Parkway, subject to conditions. It's called the Landing. Alex.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Thank you very much for reading that caption. This is a request, a rezoning request, and specifically a public hearing for the northwest corner of US 75 and FM 121. As you stated before, this project is known as The Landing. It is comprised of 69.2 acres approximately, and it is proposed to be rezoned as a planned development. So just a bit of background, the property is currently within the city limits and currently has a C2 commercial zoning district designation. And with this proposed zoning to a planned development the applicant is proposing to create a tailored zoning district to allow for a development that has basically three components. So I'll try to briefly go over some of the high notes of this zoning. The entirety of the development standards and information and proposal is found in the council packet. And it's somewhat extensive and includes quite a bit of detail, so I'll touch on some high notes, and then the developer's team is in attendance and has a presentation to provide as well. But in short, the way this zoning is structured, the landing, the 69 acres, would be carved into three sub-areas: sub-area A, sub-area B, and sub-area C. And within each of those sub-areas, there are tailored standards for different types of uses. Within sub-area A, we'll find development standards and regulations that are suited towards big box retail. That's depicted in green on this slide. Sub-area B is more pad site and individual standalone buildings along the frontage of 75 and FM 121. And then at the far north end of the property, there is about 10.8 acres that is in sub-area C, which is designed to be developed for multifamily and also allows townhomes to be developed. So I'll briefly run through some of the high notes of each of those sub-districts and turn it over to the developer to provide their presentation. So again, starting with sub-area A, again, this district is intended to be tailored toward big box retail. There are standards that have an allowance for architectural design and masonry, 80% masonry on the front and sides, and 20% for the remaining area. There are requirements for landscape along the western perimeter in sub-area A. There is a requirement, as more clearly depicted on this exhibit, for an open space area within sub-area A, which is a somewhat unique component to this commercial development, because you don't always find a requirement for an open space development within a zoning district. As you can read in the standards, it does require that the open space be amenitized and constructed with phase one. There's various different examples of types of amenitization that could be provided again, in conjunction with the proposed commercial development. Everyone is, I'm sure, familiar with big box retailers, there are unique features associated with outdoor storage of materials, outdoor sales and display of materials, seasonal display of goods, and so forth, as well as equipment rental. And so this proposed plan development does provide some accommodations for those types of uses. There is certain requirements for parking access and circulation within this subdistrict, as well as requirements for screening. In terms of a technical point, what is typical with commercial development is a site plan. At the time of development, a site plan comes before the Planning and Zoning Commission, and then it goes to City Council for approval in conjunction with building elevations. In this case, the way the plan development is structured is for any site that is going to be developed and has parking lot, building footprint, and other things site designed and accompanying elevations, this would be it would essentially grant city staff approval of the site plan and building elevations. So for example, within sub-area A, you can see the two areas that are outlined in red have been site planned, so to speak, and you have accompanying building elevations that are included in the zoning. And so should, at the time of development, if this zoning were to be approved, the site layout and the building elevations be consistent with this, the site plan elevations would not come back to the City Council. These are just renderings that have also been included in the packet that represent those other building elevations that I just showed you. Moving on to sub-area B, similarly, picking up where I left off in terms of the site plan, sub-area B is along the two frontage roads. There are building elevations and site layouts provided for the two interior multi-tenant buildings. And these are the building elevations, and the area outlined in red is the properties that have been laid out. The areas circled in blue are locations that are subject to TxDOT approval. And then within sub-area A, there are standards that have been crafted for multi-tenant and pad site development. Of note, sub-area B does include 2 multi-tenant buildings, a requirement for 2 sit-down restaurants, a limitation of 3 drive-through restaurants along US 75, 2 along FM 121, and an allowance for 3 drive-through beverage, like coffee or tea or something of that nature, with one of those 3 being inclusive of one of the multi-tenant building drive-throughs. Moving on to sub-area C, the multifamily tract, the current request is for 280 multifamily units on the 10.8 acres. There are requirements for architecture, building setbacks, landscaping, screening adjacent to the residences to the west, requirements for cross-access to the northern adjacent property, and again, as I mentioned earlier, an allowance for townhome development should townhomes be targeted for that particular property. The plan development does include proposed signage package, which includes 2 multi-tenant signs that are 25 feet tall along US 75 and 2 along FM 121, as well as individual standalone single-tenant signs for each of the future pads, however, that property ends up being subdivided. Those being 10-foot tall along US 75 and 8 along FM 121, with the exception of the fuel center, which is permitted to be 14 feet tall. And there is a proposal for a ground monument sign at the corner as a gateway into the development. I'm not sure how to necessarily encapsulate this, this particular slide, but the Planning and Zoning Commission did hold a public hearing regarding this item and then had a follow-up meeting with the developer on June 16th. And through their work, deliberation, diligence, have proposed a series of recommendations that are more detailed and outlined in the council packet. The Planning and Zoning Commission did recommend 15 conditions of approval. They did recommend approval. 11 of those 15 have been incorporated. One of the standards is more suitable for a development agreement, should we get to that point. And then 3 of the standards have been slightly modified or have been modified since the Planning and Zoning Commission's recommendation and have been provided to the council in a modified form. If I could do it justice, in terms of open storage for the big box retailers, the Planning and Zoning Commission did generally have a recommendation that any outdoor storage area be enclosed with masonry columns, wrought iron fencing, other things to enclose it, so it's not, say, sitting out in a parking lot. The applicant will touch on it, but they haven't quite gone to that level of degree, but they are providing extended front elevation facade walls to help screen the view of some storage from the front view of the building. In terms of seasonal sales, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended that those be permitted for one area in a parking lot up to 2,700 square feet. The applicant is proposing to allow for seasonal sales up to 5,000 square foot area in the parking lot. And the Planning and Zoning Commission did recommend that the multifamily be capped at 250 units, and the applicant is proposing 280. It was originally 300 when it first went to the Planning and Zoning Commission, for context. There have been a couple other slight changes that have been incorporated since the Planning and Zoning Commission heard this at their meeting in June. To the extent that a drone service facility is provided with a big box retailer, there is a requirement that that be located in the rear of the building unless otherwise approved by the staff. Trade dress is generally considered a color that's unique to a certain development or corporate identity. And so at the time this went to the Planning and Zoning Commission, there was an allowance for up to 10% trade dress. The applicants reduced that to 6%. And then lastly, there is a request to reduce landscape buffers along US 75 where adjacent to a sit-down restaurant. So that's about as quick and general as I can be. I'm glad to answer any detailed questions that you might have of me at this time. Otherwise, I'd turn it over to the developer to provide their presentation.
Any questions from the council for Alex at this time?
Alex, to be clear, those three things up there, those are the only three things that, out of the 11 you're talking about, that did not get completely changed based on the PNC recommendations from the meeting in June?
That's correct.
Okay. Or 15, sorry. I said 11.
Any other questions? Okay. Thanks, Alex.
Thank you.
Who do we get to hear from tonight?
Thank you, Alex. Good evening, everyone, Mayor, Council. Thank you for having us tonight. My name is Jackie Wolpert. I'm with United Commercial Development, and I'm going to touch a little bit on us as a company, and then I'll get into the project-specific stuff. So UCD has developed approximately 5 million square feet of retail shopping centers since our founding. That includes 22 shopping centers that have multiple phases, and all of this was in DFW. We pride ourselves on having anchor relationships with all the major anchors in this market: Walmart, Target, H-E-B, Tom Thumb, Market Street, Kroger, everyone else that's considered a major anchor and co-anchor. And we are also a trusted developer for the largest junior anchor retailers throughout the Metroplex as well: Ulta, TJ Maxx, Academy, Chick-fil-A, McDonald's, Whataburger, Starbucks, all those tenants. So I just wanted to call out some notable recent development projects that we've done around the Metroplex, just so that you guys, if anyone wants to look into them, you can see the quality developments that we build. The biggest one that we have is at 423 and 380. We have all four corners. The north side of 380 is in Prosper. The south side is in Frisco. I would say it's arguably one of the best retail intersections in the Metroplex. They have anchors there like Kroger, H-E-B, Walmart, Home Depot, Academy, Aldi, LA Fitness. We also have multifamily there. There's single family. We're about to break ground on some hotels. We have medical office. And then we're under construction now on 150,000 square feet of junior anchor space. We also recently just finished the Kroger anchor development at Coyton 121 in Plano. We are under construction on a Target anchor development down in Fort Worth off of Chisholm Trail. And we just broke ground on construction on a 600,000 total square foot shopping center in Royce City. And that will have H-E-B, Home Depot, junior anchors, fitness, and a bunch of pad sites and additional retail. So now I'm going to get into the project-specific stuff, and I'm really just going to focus first on the changes that Alex had mentioned that we made from what was in the P&Z's recommendation that we had a couple weeks ago. So one of the things is we're requesting a 10-foot wide landscape buffer for sit-down restaurants along 75 versus the 20-foot buffer that we had before. We've done some site planning on our pad sites along 75, and we've had some conversations with sit-down restaurants, and the big thing for them is parking. If they can't get enough parking on their pad, they're likely not going to build in a development that can't provide that. So we've done some site planning, and we've determined that we are able to give sit-down restaurants the parking that they would need in order to hopefully move forward with a location here. And in order to accommodate that, we would only be allowed to have a 10-foot wide landscape buffer instead of the 20 feet. That gives us the allowance for additional parking. In order to mitigate that request, because we understand that it's a change from planning and zoning, we have offered up additional landscaping to be provided for those locations compared to what is provided if it was a 20-foot buffer. So now getting into the outdoor sales. So it's broken up between temporary outdoor sales and permanent outdoor sales. So I'll touch on temporary first. P&Z had recommended that we have one 2,700 square foot area of temporary outdoor sales. They also had requested that we limit it to 2 times a year, I believe for 4 months, which we have accommodated that timing request. The only thing that we're asking for that's different from what they requested is we're asking for 5,000 square feet instead of 2,700. We've talked to multiple anchors, including the one anchor that we're talking with the most, and 5,000 is what they say they need. I don't know what more else to say on that. They need 5,000. It's important to them. They said that that area, whether it's for mulch, flowers, Christmas trees, it's all included in their sales models. And if they don't have the area to be able to sell it, then it's just part of the sales that they are lost, that they lose, and that takes a hit. So we're just requesting 5,000 from 2,700. As far as the permanent outdoor storage goes, P&Z had recommended 2 2,700 square foot areas. We're asking for 3. Again, we've talked to the anchors. This is what they are saying that they need to accommodate the sales and what they need. As Alex had mentioned, there was some talk about, there was a recommendation from P&Z about this drive-through concept, and there were other locations in the Metroplex that were called out. I just put this slide in here because I just wanted to show that that concept doesn't really make sense we don't think it makes sense for this development. On the site plan, our intent is to have 2 anchors next to each other. So the permanent outdoor sales area would be, one of the permanent outdoor sales area would be between the 2 buildings. So that kind of provides a screening. And in another location that you can see on the right, the outdoor sales area for the anchor tenant was on the south side of that building. And you can see there's nothing next to them. It's just an open field and a detention pond. So I could understand why additional screening would have been required over there. But in our case, we're gonna have a building next to them, and it doesn't really make as much sense given our site plan. However, we did talk to the anchor, and on the left picture, you can see the elevations that were presented at P&Z, and you can see that they have outdoor storage shown. It's those yellow and white bags on the shelving, and there isn't really screening for somebody that were to be driving in front of the building. And they were agreeable to update their elevations to have that column bump out more to provide that screening. So again, when we're not doing a drive-through concept, providing a big wall, I feel that they've done a good job in accommodating to make sure that as you're driving by, you're not gonna see that. You're gonna have a barrier. Okay, moving into sub-area C. This is the multifamily sub-area. So originally when we came to P&Z, we had requested 300 units. P&Z had asked us to go down, or recommended that we go down to 250. 280 is really the lowest that we feel comfortable going. It's really a sweet spot. 280 to 300 is the best sweet spot, so 280 is just what we're requesting tonight. And then additionally, there were facade percentages that were discussed at P&Z. So for all facades of the multifamily, that's including facades that the public won't see. The only people that would see are the residents that live there, or if people visiting inside the actual multifamily development. P&Z have recommended 80% for the first floor and 60% for floors 2 and up. And we are requesting that the exterior facades meet that percentage requirement. So all exterior facing facades we're saying would be 80%, and then for the first floor, 60% for floors 2 and above. Masonry. But the interior facades, we are requesting to lower that masonry requirement to be 50% for the first floor and 30% for floors 2 and above. And again, those interior facades are not public facing. They're only the interior facades for what is within the multifamily development. Another thing that was talked about a lot at P&Z was traffic with regards to the multifamily. So we ran some traffic numbers. A multifamily development like we're proposing at 280 units, on an average weekday, that would be just over 1,700 trips. AM and PM peaks, 115 total in the AM, 146 total in the PM. And then we just wanted to call out a comparison. So a comparison to that multifamily traffic is a 32,000 square foot retail building. That's about the same average weekday traffic at just over 1,700. And actually, it provides for more PM hour traffic. But on the multifamily area, we could fit more than a retail building, a 32,000 square foot retail building. We could do probably, a retail building, maybe a 40,000 square foot building. I don't know what that could be, but we put fitness on there. And then we'd probably have enough space maybe for another fast food restaurant. All of that, if you combine all of it, would be over 4,200 trips on the average weekday. So that, we just wanted to include that as comparison of how many trips. I mean, I understand traffic concerns in general, but multifamily compared to what could be is a lot less. I also just wanted to touch on multifamily in general because I think it gets a bad rep because everyone hears multifamily and apartments and they just think Section 8 housing, and that's not what we're proposing. We're not proposing or asking for zoning for Section 8 housing. There's things in this PD that staff has done to ensure that it's not going to be Section 8 housing. I mean, they're requiring, and P&Z too, I mean, asking for 80% masonry on the first floor and 60% above that, that's not common. And having construction costs like that mean, and maintenance costs too, mean you're gonna have to get higher rents. So it's not gonna lend yourself to the Section 8 housing customer. Also, we're required to provide luxury amenities, and we're gonna have a secure fence. And again, all these things are just things that drive the rent up. And we're just hoping that we can give a development that would lend a space for neighbors that you may have now to continue to live in Van Alstyne. There's young adults that maybe grew up here or just graduated college and want to find a place to stay, or place to live, but they can't afford a down payment. It would be great if they could start out in your community and hope that they love it and then end up buying a house here. Additionally, you have empty nesters and you have seniors that maybe they don't want the maintenance of a house anymore, or maybe their kids and grandkids just moved to Van Alstyne and they just want a place that they can not have that maintenance burden, and a nice place to live with great amenities and be near their family. So we're really just asking for zoning on the multifamily to allow for a quality multifamily development that just allows people like your existing neighbors to live or continue to live in this community. We're not asking for Section 8 housing. Another concern that was brought up a lot at P&Z is with regards to drainage. We do have our drainage expert here. We did meet with the residents that live in the neighborhood to the west of this property. He actually walked the property with the neighbors, so I'm going to let him speak on that. But again, I just wanted to say thank you, and if you have any questions, we're here.
Thank you, Ms. Wolpert. Questions at this time before she leaves?
Before drainage?
Yeah,
Yes.
before we get to
Yeah.
drainage. On the timing of the apartments, it's not in the PD, but what is the expected time frame in the sense of when these apartments would start being built?
I mean, we can't say 100%, but it's probably not going to be for a few years.
Okay. And then
As far as starting construction, it could be like a couple years, but opening, it would be a few years. Oh, yeah, and sewer doesn't allow for them to be built today.
Yeah, no, I knew that. And then on the Section 8 or subsidized housing, is there, and I don't know if this might be a David question, is there any way in the PD that can be in writing or no?
That could be, the question is, can you?
Include, you cannot build Section 8?
That
No, okay.
that would run afoul of fair housing.
That's what I
fair
thought.
housing
I just wanted to ask the
concerns.
question.
I'll say.
And I get all your points of what you're saying and everything
No, I
like that.
understand, yeah.
I just,
And I'll say, in sort of land use, I guess more of sort of an academic land use deal, a particular multifamily complex is less likely to be Section 8 for the reasons that have been presented. Is it a premium product? Is the cost higher? Or is it heavily amenitized? So those may have the effect. Fair Housing Act is very tricky, and the sort of a city, any governmental entity can't ban Section 8 housing or preclude it, but the effects of how a particular complex are designed may have certain effects that make it less likely, including
Yeah.
what's been presented here.
Okay, thank you, David.
I have a quick one before you leave. When you say masonry, you mean brick or stone, or does that include a fibrous board as well?
The definition in the PD, page is it on? It's as defined in the PD. I
Okay.
have to find the page.
How many acres was the multifamily? 10 acres?
Yeah, 10.8.
10.8. I just have a question. When you started designing this, did you look at our standards at all, or were you just going with what you thought was best for the size of land?
I mean, we do look at standards. in
Because
the
our standards are
community.
18 units per acre, which would be
We understood.
180.
Yeah,
And
we
you're
un-
wanting 280.
Yeah, we
And
understand.
more parking. And with townhomes, we have 80% coverage, and you want 100%. Did you see any of that before you did this?
Yeah, we knew that we were requesting variances from what your standards are.
Thank you.
The shops at Chisholm Trail that y'all did, from looking at your website, doing research, 284 units on 13.5 acres. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, so that development, we're in a partnership with the landowner. The landowner had the apartments built before we got into the partnership. So we were not involved in the planning of those apartments.
But going off of 284 units on 13.5 and wanting 280 on 2.7 acres less than Chisholm Trails, it's going to be very crowded. And you mentioned, and Ryan hit on it a while ago, you're not asking for Section 8 housing, but from what Mr. Ritter said, we can't put it in there, but there is a chance, however remote, that at some point in the future,
If we could put it in there, we would.
no, that there could be some Section 8 at some
No, I'm
point.
saying if we could write it in the PD that we won't do Section 8 housing, we would.
But you can't.
Well, we can't. So we don't know, we're doing everything we can, like he said, to accommodate all the other requests that would lend to this not being a
We
Section
could
8
go
housing
100% brick.
development. I think we've been accommodating in the asks that,
Have you talked to
that
any
we've had
residents
so
in the
far.
established neighborhood, how they feel about apartments at their back door? And what did they say?
we have listened to everyone that have been talking at P and Z, and
Were they for it or against it?
against it. There was some talks about setbacks, like a 75-foot setback for a building that's over 1 story, and we've accommodated that. They had talked about walls and additional landscaping. We've accommodated that. We've done at least all the ideas that have been thrown out to us with regards to multifamily, short of just not doing it, we have accommodated.
So you would
as
say
many
that because you
things.
did that, you think that those people are in favor of it now?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
I'm not expecting that they're in favor of it. Yeah, so one of the requests from P and Z was to increase the 1-bedroom parking to 1.5, which
But
we
that's still below
accommodated.
our standard.
I understand, but we did increase it from what we originally asked for, and we increased it to the amount that P and Z had asked for.
Because our standards say a 2-bedroom apartment would be 2.5 spots, you've got 1.65. A 3-bedroom would be 4 spots, and you've got 2. Make it make sense. We did. That's why we have them for Van Alstyne. When you come here, you're supposed to come to our standards. We don't change because people, no, it is. Because that's what the people want. That's why we have these standards. That's what the people that vote for us, that's who.
So I think, and that's part of the reason that we had been.
I'm sorry?
We.
Okay, with our standards.
One of the reasons that we decided, and with staff, to do a planned development on the property is because of, we knew that there were going to be things that we would have to vary from your standards. I also would say that the base zoning for this property does allow commercial, but it doesn't require 80% masonry on all 4 facades of a big building or even any of the pad sites. So there's things that we are also agreeing to, not just on the multifamily, but on the retail, that aren't in line with your base zoning either and actually go above and beyond.
Yeah, so it could be retail, or it could be our standards, 180 multifamily versus 280.
Any other questions for Jackie at this time?
I still do want Ryan with Spires to come up and talk about drainage, if that's
Yes.
okay.
Absolutely. Mr. Hartman,
Good evening.
thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you for having me. As Jackie mentioned, my name's Ryan Hartman. I'm a licensed professional engineer and certified floodplain expert, and I serve as the head of the hydrology and hydraulics department at Spires Engineering. What that means is that I'm an in-house resource for our land development engineers and their clients, and my sole laser focus is all issues drainage. My primary responsibility lies in using my technical expertise to figure out how to design our drainage systems in a way that are in accordance with federal, state, and local criteria. And as sterile as that might sound, I love what I do. I'm good at it, and I have a deep sense of purpose and responsibility in improving every community that I touch. So as Jackie mentioned, I've seen and heard the community's concerns on this issue, and I'm here tonight to explain the scope of my team's efforts in the context of our project, and hopefully to answer any and all questions, comments, or concerns that you all might have in related to our site's handling of our potential drainage impacts. So with that being said, the first step in any drainage analysis is to understand the existing conditions of the subject property and to model how it operates within its watershed. The exhibit on the screen is a helpful illustration of that exercise, and it should tell you most of what you need to know about the subject watershed. So for example, the contours tell you where the storm runoff travels when it rains. The thick red lines are drainage area lines, which illustrate that every drop of rainfall within those areas drain to a common point. So each of those red areas on that map drain to a common point, and you can see from that map that our site is situated downstream of a couple hundred acres east of Highway 75. Off-site runoff is conveyed through our property by a channel that bisects us from east to west, continues on downstream through Dobbins Estates, and ultimately makes its confluence with Hurricane Creek. So as we put those facts together, we use that information to calculate and quantify the amount of rainfall at critical design locations. Those are shown as the little red dots on this map that might be hard for most people to see, but we calculate rainfall and pre-project conditions at each of those critical locations, and then we use those calculated flows to evaluate the hydraulics of the drainage infrastructure, so the creeks, the pipes. And what we're trying to figure out there is the depth of flooding, the velocities experienced as the community member shared earlier, and to understand the quality of flow through our site and also downstream so that we can better understand how our site might impact those things. And so anytime that you develop a property, by definition, you're increasing storm runoff. And our challenge is to mitigate for that and to prove that our site is not going to adversely impact our neighbors in accordance with city criteria. And I would say that Van Alstyne's criteria in general is consistent with the standard of care that we see in the surrounding municipalities, and even in some cases is above and beyond that standard of care. One example of that is that some cities, their criteria would end at our downstream limit of our property. So right where flow exits our site, we're considered kind of through with our analysis, and we wouldn't study any further than that. What Van Alstyne requires is that you continue your study downstream to a point where your site makes up 10% of that overall watershed. And so basically what that means is that not only do we prove at our site's point of discharge that we're decreasing the amount of storm runoff, but we also continue that study downstream and evaluate those things like erosion and flooding. And so, again, any site that develops will increase storm runoff. Your paving over existing grassy and treed open spaces. You're also capturing and conveying and speeding up the rate of runoff through your site. And the primary tool that we have at our disposal in any project in North Texas is usually detention. And so the general concept of detention is that we are controlling the release rate of flow from our site. And so as more flow enters these ponds than leaves those ponds, because we've got a smaller outfall structure, you have to have somewhere to store that water, and that's what the ponds are for. And so because we're restraining the flow from our site, those ponds fill up, and that's their purpose. And so we do this in as thoughtful of a way as we can. So we approach this with a few different lenses. One is we assume that we don't detain. What would happen? Would we increase runoff on our neighbors? Despite kind of what your intuition might say, sometimes it's actually better for downstream neighbors for you not to detain because of timing and where you're situated in the watershed. That's not the case on this project. On this project, it's better for our downstream neighbors if we do detain and we slow down the rate of runoff from our site. In some cases, we might grant that we're going to increase runoff, but we're going to prove downstream that we're not increasing erosion or flooding. And then the last option we would have is, okay, we're increasing runoff, downstream does not have capacity for us, so we're going to improve downstream. So we're not doing either of those things. What we're doing is we're proposing detention designed in a way that reduces flow not only at our site's point of discharge, but all the way through what's called the zone of influence, which is continuing on downstream. And so at our site's actual point of discharge, we're reducing peak flow rates. So you get the same storm event, apples to apples, the same inches of rainfall over the same period of time. Our site pre-development, our site post-development, and what we prove is that our site post-development is going to make things at worst the same as existing, and our hope is better. And so at our site's point of discharge, we're showing that we're decreasing flows, and then we continue to decrease flows all the way until we hit our site's point of zone of influence, which again is where our site makes up 10% of that watershed. I know that's a lot of context, but I wanted to provide as much as I could and just show you the efforts that we're going through. And again, we're thorough, and what the city requires is a staged outfall structure. So with concerns like erosion, it's not sufficient to just size your infrastructure for the 100-year storm, your detention pond for the 100-year storm. What Van Alstyne also addresses with their manual is the lower, more frequent nuisance rainfall events. So for instance, they require that your first inch of rainfall in a 6-hour storm is completely retained and held back so that first flush is not eroding your downstream neighbors. And so you also have to study a variety of storm events, so those more frequent storm events all the way up to that 100-year storm event that we all hear about. And so our goal is to size these ponds so that they've got staged outfalls so that we're decreasing in each of those. So I say all of that to say that we've studied this site. We've proposed 2 detention ponds with that goal in mind, and we've prepared a drainage study to support those things. And so we've had our meeting with the community. I went on that site visit last week. The downstream neighbors were gracious enough to just lead me on an investigation of their property, to give me some history of their creek, some of their concerns having to do with erosion and flooding, and as well as that, I've also studied the upstream developments, taken pictures, taken measurements in the field, and use those to inform my modeling efforts. And so we feel that we've done a thorough job addressing those things, and our end goal is to basically leave the drainage effects downstream better than we came into, basically.
Thank you, Mr. Hartman. Questions from council before we get to the public hearing for Mr. Hartman? I certainly appreciate you meeting with the residents of the county and walking through doing the field trip with them.
For sure.
So, thank you, sir.
I've got the chigger bites to prove it, so.
Okay, I'll bet. Bug spray is critical.
Yeah.
Ms. Wolpert, you want to
Yeah, sorry,
readdress?
I just want to address some questions that had come up. So, Mayor, you had asked about cement board. It's not part of the masonry definition.
Thank you.
And then Councilman Williams, you had brought up the Chisholm Trail apartment development. So that acreage actually includes a large detention pond. That detention pond is larger than what you would probably typically see for an apartment complex because it serves additional property outside of it.
I was just going
So-
off your website, just trying
No,
to
I
figure things
understand.
out.
Yeah, so if you take out the detention pond, the acreage is probably about comparable.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Jackie, I did have a question. On the 20 feet to 10 feet on the
Yes.
service road, you know, our goal in Van Alstine is to get that intersection at Van Alstine Parkway, you know, redone and to move up on the list, which when that happens, I would be assuming that they were going to actually do the service roads in concrete and everything like that at some point. When they do that, is that going to cut into any of that going from 20 feet to 10 feet? And like, is that
The
in
20
the right of
feet-
way? Is that planned
No.
for or?
None of the feet that we're offering up as far as landscape buffers that you see, so the 20 feet and the 10 feet, that's solely on our property outside of the
So
TxDOT
none of it
right-of-way.
goes into the text dot right
None
away?
of it goes into the
Okay.
TxDOT right away. And also, and I was just gonna call out that I know how I presented it, it was for pad sites that have sit-down restaurants, but how it's actually, I believe, written, that we proposed it written in the PD, is that it's only for the pad sites that are north of the northernmost entry point off of 75, so it's the pad sites that are closest to the multifamily property and the floodway, or the creek.
Thank you. Anything else
Thank
from
you.
council before we go to public hearing? At this time, the public's invited to give comments, ask questions. You will have 3 minutes, as usual. Once again, Mike will be keeping track of our time over there. So would anyone like to address the council at this time? And if you would, state your name and street that you live on.
I'm Sharon Gentry, 335 White Oak Drive. Our property is adjacent to the multifamily on this development that they're working on. I want to give you 30 seconds of history here. We have a family relationship with this town and with this property. My husband was a Dobbins. His grandfather was a Dobbins, thus Dobbins Estates. When he passed away, my mother-in-law inherited the property, and my brother-in-law helped develop it, and Kenneth Gentry built most of the homes that are out there. My husband's is Danny Gentry. And we live on that property and have a really close tie to the fact that this was our ancestors' property and would like to not have to leave it. You know, that's our, my husband grew up here. I graduated high school here, have a lot of history here. A lot of our family lives. A lot of our family is in the cemetery here. Thank you, Ryan, for coming to see the property with us and to understand the creek. We have this creek that drains underneath Highway 75 is our road in and out of our property has a bridge that we built, private bridge, and it has a concrete culvert that the water has to go through. Any drainage that's coming from across the highway on the east side of 75 and any of the drainage on this property we're talking about comes underneath my bridge. It is a concrete bridge built like a low water bridge that allows it, when the water gets so high, it'll go over it. When we built that bridge in 2015, we intentionally built it that way to protect it. We had an expectation about how much water comes down through there. We've been watching it for 5 years after having lived there since 2000. And we understood what kind of water was coming. Somewhere around 2021, development happened in Graywood on the opposite side of the highway. And when they did that, they also changed the drainage coming under 75, and we started getting a lot more water. So what's been happening to not only our property, but my neighbor's property and the downstream people that are being impacted by it, there's a lot of water coming to us. Prior to that development happening, we were probably about 6 inches of rain before it would actually go over the bridge. a little over 2 inches will do it today. So any more development that you do on the east side of the highway is going to put water on us. And unless there's some mitigation plans that take place to resolve that. I would say maybe that's what we call past sins, that's happening. Development was done, good studies weren't done to help us protect us from the water. We're experiencing that now. I appreciate the work they're doing to try and help mitigate any additional water, but we're already facing a problem today. And if I
An
take
additional 10
10
seconds,
10
please.
seconds, please. The multifamily, if you're going to try and avoid a Section 8, reducing the amount of facade that you're going to make look nice is going the opposite direction of that.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to address council tonight? Yes, sir.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor and council members. I'm Ryan Love, 241 White Creek Road. I actually live across the creek from the Gentrys. And I know that a lot of the community is concerned with development. But in order to grow, change is inevitable. So I understand that we need this development to come in and give us so we don't have to drive to Anna and further. My concern is the drainage. The gentleman that spoke very first said he's been fighting something that I am not wanting to fight, but I will. That is why we had Ryan come and walk. Because I don't want a bunch of we will, we promise, and you have written in backdoor policies that allow staff to make decisions later on, and decisions made and comments made by staff. Well, that's the sins of the past. Was it under your direction? Yes, it was. Then it's your sin. And it's still current because it's still taking dirt away from my property. State of Texas, you cannot buy a piece of dirt, develop a piece of dirt, and put water onto my property without being held liable. I want to make sure on record that this drainage plan is of the utmost, because this developer is going to have to spend a little bit more of their crinkle to fix the sins of the past of the city of Van Alstyne. So I want to make sure that the city of Van Alstyne is on the up and up to make sure that we've crossed all T's and dotted all I's so that Dubs Estates does not get washed away. I don't have any doubt that this development will do what they need to do, but I want it concrete in writing that this drainage plan is going to be top-notch. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Love. Anyone else?
I'd like to speak.
Yes, sir.
My name is Robert Rude. I'm at 286 White Oak Drive. I'm in the Dobbins Estates also. And I second what Ryan and Sharon have said, that the biggest concern to this development is not the development itself, it's the drainage. I feel like we're on skates and they want to move fast. Jackie mentioned the last time we had a meeting that they were hoping to break ground in the first part of the year. That's right around the corner. There's not been enough work done to establish drainage is sufficient. A lot has to go into this. Lane offered in our last meeting as a level of protection to the residents, to sponsor the cost of a third party disinterested to the developer or anyone else. They would have to approve it to look at the drainage plan before it goes to approval. This thing is on skates. It's scary. There is lots of property damage at stake. And that's generally the whole thing. Ryan also mentioned these concessions. After P&Z, how do we know what else is going to get pushed through? That was news to me. A drone station, okay. And it was never mentioned in any of these talks. Okay? Where else are we going with this? and it's scary. It's their life investment in these properties. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Root. Ms. Bianchi?
My name's Barbara Bianchi. I live in the 200 block of West Marshall. That's 1 block off of Dallas, 2 blocks off Highway 5. You can literally see my property from the downtown area. We have been fighting this drainage issue for a long time. And we will be in the next month showing films and pictures from 2017 to show what the property looked like in 2017 and what the last flood was doing in 2026. It's scary. You got to see the film to understand what we're talking. We don't live in their neighborhood. We live right here in town. The 3 properties that are asking for some kind of proper drainage amount to a little over $1 million. 3 houses, $1 million. That's a hell of a lot of money. It's a lot of money for us old people that are retired and planned that to be our retirement. And we're getting eroded down the stream. We've had a meeting with the Public Works Director, and we thought we would come to an agreement. We got a piece of paper through the email that asked us to sign away anything that goes wrong. They're fixing to start something. That's like sign the paper and we'll read the words later. Come to find out, when I did ask for more information, we didn't understand a lot of what they were doing. A lot of what they're going to do is try and open up the blockage behind us on that creek, which is up there on Fulton Street. And this is all according to what your engineer has said. You've covered up the land that used to soak up the water. And there is no sewer drainage in old parts of Van Alstyne like West Marshall, like Jefferson, like Fulton, like Kelly Lane. And we're all getting flooded. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Bianchi. Anyone else wish to address council? Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So why a 4th gas station on that corner? We have Casey's, we have the one by McDonald's. Why do we need a 4th gas station on this proposal? I mean, we're a town of 8,000 people, and I mean, we already have 4 gas stations on one road. Why do we need 4 in one? So, I mean, I'd rather have retail stores, personally, right? And if we do have a gas station, I like combustion engines. I have a truck, but it'd be nice if we put maybe some electric chargers. Just a suggestion if it's a compromise. I think the lady here mentioned she said townhomes, but townhomes are usually not, they're purchased, they're not rented. So did she really mean townhomes or apartments? And I think that's the thing about Section 8, right?
I can address that one. I think there's the option in the plan development to go either or potentially a mix, but it's understood those are 2 different animals.
Yeah. And then the gentleman with the great voice, I think his name's Ryan. I think you do need to look at the drainage. If you go west, down the road, look at Thompson Farms. I'm not sure if you went that far.
Not sure the name. Is that the subdivision continuing west past?
Yes.
It is.
So I bought a home next to Barbara, try to improve it, better the neighborhood. I also bought a house. I live there permanently. I think it's probably by Lane, down the street from Lane.
Yes.
Thompson Farms. I would encourage you to see what the drainage is what the drain's looking down there, that the erosion. So I think we really have some drainage opportunities in Van Alstyne, and I would encourage all of you just to think about, if you don't build a 2-story home, or you don't add a 2nd-story home if you have a bad foundation. We need to we need to address our drainage before we start building more. That's my thoughts.
Thank you, Mr. Egger. I wasn't allowed to address your comments earlier in the meeting because it wasn't on the agenda, but now you're talking about something on the agenda. Mr. Jones, would you like to talk about the drainage study we're hoping to undertake as part of the new budget cycle?
Well, two things. I'd like to say that there is a meeting for those that live on Marshall Road or thereabout this Friday at 9 a.m. In this office, we have the contractor that the city has on hold to do some work on that particular project, and anybody that's in this room that would like to attend is welcome to come at 9 a.m.
Thank you, sir. I know Barbara and I will be there. We'll try to get some of our other neighbors as well.
Outstanding.
I just found it interesting that, we're asking for a release and we don't know where the property lines are, but
We can address that at the meeting, the
Yeah,
release.
we can address it. The release is a requirement. We'll speak to that on Friday at 9 a.m., so you have a better understanding of that.
I'm not a
Secondly, the
lawyer,
cit-
but normally when people send out a release out, you usually put a disclaimer that you should talk to a counsel or an attorney just to provide you guidance before you sign any documents. So I encourage, like Tristan or others in the future, if you're going to engage the public and provide a legal document, that you give them the advice or a suggestion that they also have a lawyer read it, because I'm sure a lawyer wrote that release. So I think we have to play by the same rules, right?
Okay, and Mr. Jones, you had another comment?
Yes, sir. We do have a current study underway looking at all of our issues that are in the city as far as flooding that's taking place. We've met with quite a number of people to try and capture the scope of the project, to determine the magnitude of the cost. Once we have that information in hand, we'll come back to City Council and show you what we have learned and request that we come up with a funding mechanism to be able to fund the next step of the process, which is to hire an engineer, much like the one you heard from Spires this evening, to look at our city and do a master plan for our drainage. And then with the funding that we've created, we can take major steps forward in our drainage.
Thank you, sir. Thank you,
And
Mr.
Mr. Mayor,
Egger.
I would like to thank Tristan for her follow-up. She's been doing her due diligence. So while I'm critical, I also want to acknowledge that she's been the most engaging person we've met over the last couple of years.
Indeed, thank you, sir. Anyone else like to address council regarding the development in question on US 75? Second call for comments? Third and final, seeing no one else seeking recognition, I will declare the public hearing portion of item B to be concluded, and we'll move to council action and discussion. Council members, comments or further questions?
I have rather a lengthy list of things I'd like to say, but I'll defer to anybody who wants to go first.
Anyone else?
Well, just a basic one, is it all or nothing? Is it, we have to approve all three? A, B, and C?
Is that maybe a question for our counselor?
Yeah, what's before you tonight is a direction to direct staff to come back with an ordinance. Zoning has to be done at the time of an ordinance, and part of the way this is structured is to gain council's vision of what that ordinance should look like, because this is a PD ordinance, so it's a planned development ordinance. So it's one ordinance for the entire 60-some-odd acres. It is divided into those subdivisions of A, B, and C. But, so for example, though, council couldn't approve A and B and not C. It's one 62-acre tract. What that PD looks like is subject to modification by council, but you couldn't, for example, approve A and B but not C. It's one 62-acre tract. The PD is the zoning for the entire tract. So there's a lot of variables in that, as we've heard tonight. There's recommendations that P&Z has made. There's asks that the developer is making. All those sort of data points and all those sort of individual things are going to be in that PD, but it is one PD zoning for that 62-acre tract. I'll leave it there.
Thank you, sir.
And it's currently zoned, the whole thing is currently zoned commercial.
Correct. I believe that's correct.
C2, yep. Alex is nodding back there, yep.
And the only change would be to add the multifamily to the north end. So if it was denied, it'd just say C2, and what they had up there on A and B could go forward.
Right, it's currently zoned C2, so by right, they could put anything that is permitted in C2 by right for the entire 62-acre tract.
Okay, thank you.
And what you said, I think, is accurate from a big picture point of view, but obviously there's a lot of details where C2 has been modified as well. Alex wants to comment too on that, I think.
I don't want to step out of line because
Well, let's get through the rest of the questions here from council or comments. Anyone else before Councilman Neal shares? Brian?
No, I'm gonna go.
Lee?
All right, and there's a first for everything, right? So y'all get to hear me use my microphone, which never happens. And so this development right here is a good development. The developer has taken steps to ensure that it matches our town. No doubt. It's not what the neighbors want. I understand that. Not what a lot of people want, but we all understand that development's coming. And it can go here, or it's gonna go on another corner of our town that we don't control. Because we have MUDs here that control the south part of town, and we have pockets in town that are not in the city limits. They're still in the county, so they can do whatever they want to. So the state has not made it comfortable for municipalities at all. Not at all. We talk about zoning commercial, and Dusty's absolutely right. But there's a House bill that the state passed that said you can now build apartments in zone commercial. So if we zone something commercial and we think, hey, we're gonna put a warehouse there, or we're gonna put a restaurant there that has 2 bathrooms, and the state comes in and says, hey, nope, you can put apartments there, and somebody decides to put 280 bathrooms there, the infrastructure that the city put in does not fit that. But the state says, our elected officials in the state of Texas said, no, you have to do that. The city has to take care of that. So how do I take care of something the state said? Okay, well then I gotta fix it, right? So then we got no money. So where does the money come from? The money comes from sales tax, because if you read the state's going to level the property tax. And I'm all about leveling the property tax. I don't want to pay taxes either. Off this bench, I'm just like y'all. But if our property tax stops, our sales tax has to go up. And if our sales tax is not in the city, it will be in a MUD, it will be in the county, and we don't get any of it because it's going to someplace else. We have the burden of it, we have the drainage, we have the wash, we have the traffic, we have everything else that comes on to our streets, our parks, and everything else, because our illustrious state legislature has deemed it that way. So we need the sales tax. We need apartments. I've said apartments for the past 10 years that I've been here, we need good apartments. Because we do have a lot of children that graduate here, and they live in Howell, they live in Denison, they live in Sherman, and they never come back to Van Alstyne, and people worry about Van Alstyne losing its flair, losing its people, and it is, because they never come home. They go to Melissa, they go to McKinney, they go to Plano, where they can find an apartment to live in, they join a church, they find a wife, and they raise their kids in those schools and those parks, and they come back every now and then to visit their parents or their grandparents until their parents or grandparents move to wherever they are. And our city becomes like every other city. So I am approved. I think this apartment deal is very simple. I think it's very fair. And I know that because I build apartments. I work for a developer. And I work for a developer that would drop 500 units on 10 acres. With a parking garage, and you wouldn't see daylight out of the thing. So 280 on 10 acres is very kind. No, we don't want to see our town grow, but there's only a handful of ways that people on this table can make it grow correctly, because the state has done so much to diminish municipal authority. So, there you go.
Councilmember Thomas, if I could interject, I think you made an important point, and what you're talking about is Senate Bill 840, and sort of let me talk about where it is now and where we think it may go. Where it is now is for cities with populations over 150,000 and counties with over 300,000 residents. What that's called is bracketing, and the legislature bracketed this. What it allows is development of mixed-use residential or multifamily by right in anything zoned for office, commercial, retail, or warehouse use. So what it did in the big cities like Dallas and Austin and San Antonio is anything zoned, automatically you could develop multifamily by right in those zoning types that city planners never contemplated that going there. The density is, and cities can't limit below 36 units per acre. So in this case, that would be 360 plus. Can't limit height below 45 feet. Capped at parking of 1 parking space per dwelling unit. So significantly less than the city's deals. Setbacks are capped at 25 feet, and it allows conversion of existing commercial or warehouse buildings at least 5 years old to multifamily use by right. So where do we think this is going with the legislature? We think, and this is, I think TML has weighed in on this. If people were there at the annual sort of legislative wrap-up that we do, we talked a lot about bracket creep. Where we think this may go with the next legislative session is that bracket may expand to include smaller cities and everything. It seems to have bipartisan support. One side sort of is seen as pro-developer friendly. The other side is seen as affordable housing friendly. So you sort of have a perfect storm of bracket creep seems to be coming in this area. If that did play out, then as commercial, this could be, the entire 62 acres could be zoned for multifamily or mixed use by right at a density of 36, if we see that bracket creep come down to a city and county of this size.
Thank you, Counselor. Other comments from council?
Yeah, one more thing.
Yes, sir.
Affordable housing. You hear that a lot with the state of Texas right now. You hear it all over the place, affordable housing, affordable housing. That is not HUD. That is not subsidized. That is not government funded in any county, state, or municipal way. Affordable housing, what they're trying to do, it's market rate housing. It's market rate apartments. So there's nothing special about it. It's just a tagline to make people feel better. HUD is typically HUD, Section 8 is typically Section 8. So you hear affordable housing, that affordable.
Thank you, sir. Other council comments?
Yeah.
Councilman Neal.
So first, I just want to say I sat through the planning and zoning meeting with UCD, the very long 2-3 hour meeting that broke down every single thing, and I commend both sides, P&Z for the amount of work that they put in to bring back what we've gotten, UCD for making the changes that they did, and just from the very beginning all the way to the work with Lane, staff, planning and zoning, far beyond for Ryan and his team to go out there and meet, walk the properties, talk with the house owners out there. So just thank y'all for doing those things. I spent quite a bit of time putting together a very objective presentation, essentially, and that's how this is kind of broken up. So I'm going to read it. I wrote this, but I'm not going to present it like I'm standing in front of you and doing just kind of flying off the cuffs. So there's a few sections here, and I think it overlaps a little bit with what Lee was talking about, but it goes a little bit more in depth and gives some numbers. So the first thing that I go through is just the consistency with the comprehensive plan. And this is directly from the comprehensive plan. The Van Alstyne comprehensive plan recognizes the importance of expanding housing choices as the city grows. The plan states that broadening the mix of housing types will meet the needs of young adults and first-time renters. Mr. Lee commented on that. Seniors seeking to downsize, local workers needing affordable housing, households seeking walkable, low-maintenance living options. The comprehensive plan further recommends encouraging thoughtfully scaled multifamily development near downtown schools, parks, and existing infrastructure to improve housing accessibility, promote infill development, and support the city's long-term sustainability while preserving community character. This report, anyways, so that's the first part of my report. And then we look at demographic trends. So, second. So here's where it kind of alarms me a little bit when we're talking about demographic trends. We looked at, with the help of Lane getting me their, well, I mean, you can go find it on their website, but Lane sent me over Anna's comprehensive plan. Their current median age right now in the city of Anna is 32.4 years. It's quite young. We're at 38.5, which is actually very healthy and good. But we're closer to the age of 40 where they actually start to kind of ring the bells, like kind of alarming, like, hey, you're kind of getting in the aging part of your community, not attracting younger households, creating challenges like slower workforce growth, reduced local consumer spending, increased demand for emergency medical or senior services, lower housing turnover, greater pressure on municipal budgets, and you kind of get into that as you grow older. So while we're not there right now, obviously, if we don't entertain the idea, again, not just throwing apartments everywhere in the city of Van Alstyne, but at least diversifying our housing markets inside of Van Alstyne. What that does is that helps attract young professionals, first-time renters, teachers, first responders, local employees, seniors seeking to downsize while remaining in Van Alstyne. And then you go to the existing housing conditions. Currently, right now, we have 353 rentable units that are not senior or senior living or senior care that are apartments. Right now, that's 14% of our single-family homes that are on the ground. Anna right now is at 27%. Like, we're not even close to them. And we're talking about this being like 2 to 3 years from now, possibly. We don't have any other apartments that are on the ground right now or being constructed as of right now. So we're not growing. And Anna wants to get to, based on their comprehensive plan, up to 16,000, their measurement is 16,000 rentable units in Anna by, I forgot what year it was, but relatively, that's their cap rate or whatever that Anna has. So that's pretty crazy. The other thing that's crazy about Van Alstyne is our median home value or sale price in Van Alstyne is $450,000. That means if you make $100,000 a year, you can't afford a house here in Van Alstyne, Texas. You can't. So that speaks to Lee's point where when you have 25 to 35-year-olds that have good jobs and make $100,000 a year, maybe they don't have kids, maybe they have one kid, they want to live, and my neighbor just moved here, he's young, him and his wife, and he was telling me, and he went to school here, he has parents that lived here, they moved from Sherman. He said he's got a bunch of friends that live in Whitewright, married, live in Whitewright, all around here, and they consider Van Alstyne the gold standard of where to live. And they can't move here because they can't afford to live here. Right now, Zillow has 16 rentable housing, single-family home rentable houses on Zillow right now to rent in Van Alstyne, Texas. That's it. 16. That's it. Current median household in Van Alstyne, based on retail strategies, estimated to be 109,000. So essentially, half of Van Alstyne can't afford to buy a house here in Van Alstyne at the median range. Yeah, it's great. We have a strong owner-occupied housing market here in Van Alstyne, but it doesn't mean that we need to ignore diversified housing, whether it be townhomes or apartments. And then the crazy thing about it, the last thing I'll say, let me find it. I'm not even going to do the comparison with Anna.
We don't compare that.
What?
We don't compare that.
Okay, so the biggest thing is the fiscal impact. So this kind of goes to, I don't even think I can speak to the comments that were based on the properties here in Old Town. Like, I can't really address those, correct?
As far as the drainage specific issues to,
Not the specific issues. I just wanted to say, we're in and Dusty will probably correct me on this, but a 150-year-old area of town, right? Like, it's old. And you need money in order for you to fix the city needs money in order for them to fix that drainage in those particular areas because they are old. I mean, I know if Tristan was in here and some of the other public works staff that's been here since I've been on council, if they told us what they pulled up out of the ground in downtown Van Alstyne, it would alarm the crap out of you. You'd be like, what the heck, where'd this come from? So anyways, you need money to be able to do that. And if we look at a 280-unit Class A apartment complex using a capitalized valuation model, and even if we're using 80% stability occupancy at $1,500 of average rent, which I assume this would probably be because it is above and beyond of what a substandard apartment complex would look like, and we use a capitalization rate of 5.5, and we use just an estimate, like a very low conservative number, it produces $150,000 of property tax on a yearly basis. And then you add in the sales revenue that's projected through that. It's about anywhere from 100 to 135 based on experts from Zack Tax. So that's a big deal. And then you look at the lower costs for police and fire on that because everything is in a dense place. They have sprinklers in each unit, all that stuff. It's actually far lower of a cost per single family resident that's in Van Alstyne, Texas, which these numbers astounded me, which the cost per meter, according to Zack Tax, is about $1,200 of a cost to our police and fire per single family resident. If we were to equate putting 140 single resident homes on that property, which is about what that 10 acres would bring, and again, these are estimates, that would bring about 140 homes, that would produce a net negative fiscal impact to the city of Van Alstyne. Like, we would make negative dollars from the cost of the police and fire to what the property tax we would receive off each one of those individual houses would be. So if we want to fix the problems that are there, and I'm not even talking about A and B with the sales tax revenue that's going to be generated through the retail that's going to come in through this development, which I agree with Lee is far and beyond above the standard that we put forth because I've seen it. I've been at every P&Z meeting. I'm at this meeting. I was with all the meetings that we talked about all these things that were not in the P&Z spectrum or the city of Van Alstyne spectrum or in the council. And I just thought, and I'm not trying to be pompous. I'm not trying to say that apartments are the new greatest thing ever, and that's what we want all throughout the city. No, I think Dr. Spees said it very well in the planning and zoning meeting last month. We want kind of pocket apartments. We want apartments that are in places that are in good locations. They're very high quality. Lee said it, market rate apartments, not subsidized, not Section 8, essentially. And we want those people that are 25 to 35 or seniors that are trying to downsize to be able to afford to live here in Van Alstyne and be a part of this community at a solid rate. And I understand the concerns of the flooding. It made me feel, or the flooding, just the water runoff and everything, and that made me feel a lot better today. The studies that y'all did and Ryan coming up here and talking and everything. So That was very long-winded. I'm sorry I spent too much time on that, but I just had to get my thoughts out. I spent a lot of time on this, and so thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilman Neal. Other questions or comments?
Yes, sir. For Jackie, how many one-bedrooms would you anticipate?
So the zoning says that the minimum has to be 50%, so it would be at least 140.
And have you thought of a price point yet?
No. No.
Different person will come in.
Is it?
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Other questions or comments? I would just say I greatly appreciate the work of the Planning and Zoning Commission. I was about to try to look up and see how many pages the PD is. They went through it. Ryan mentioned one meeting. I personally dialed into at least two, and I think they discussed it before that as well. So thanks to our P&Z members. They don't get paid for this, but they're up here spending multiple hours, not only during the meetings, but in preparation for the meetings as well, going page by page, line through the PD. We don't do that for every development because a lot of them are straight zoning, but being a PD, they put a lot of time and effort, and because of the location, being the gateway to Van Alstyne. So thanks, gentlemen. I appreciate y'all's time that you put into that. There's Dr. Spees. Okay, thank you, and these guys up front. So having said that, any other comments or questions from council? If not, we could entertain a motion.
Make a motion to, what am I supposed to do? Direct staff to prepare an ordinance regarding request for rezoning.
David, on the request, do we need to say, as Alex presented with the changes, like?
I believe there's a new slide up that has some sort of direction there. And are we asking for recommendations versus?
Joey, can you grab the clicker that's up there, please?
Okay, so the motion could be made to go with P&Z's recommendations or as presented by the
But as
developer.
presented had 12 of the 15 recommendations changed, and then 3 that were semi-changed.
Right.
And then the street change and the 50% to 30% facade on the interior. Is that the motion?
That could be, yeah. It's at council's place, so. I'm sorry. So, Alex, is this the motion would be directing staff to prepare the ordinance subject to those things, approval of a development agreement to be brought forward at a future meeting that would kind of control the entire process, and then the P&Z recommendations or the as presented, and then with the landscape buffer reduction would be kind of subsumed in there. So,
Councilman Thomas is telling me his motion, clarifying his motion to be as presented tonight.
and subject to the DA and economic incentive?
Sounds like plan. Add that to it.
I'll second it.
Ryan is seconding the motion. Is there further discussion? Anyone want to offer any amendments? Hearing none, I would call for a vote. All in favor of the motion to approve the PD and direct council to present an ordinance for as presented tonight, subject to the other conditions, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
Aye.
Anyone abstaining? Zach, I missed. Well, you were an aye. That motion carries 4 votes to 0.
No, it doesn't. Sorry.
4 votes to 1. Thank you. All right, we are moving on. Thanks to the UCD team for making the trip up here yet again. Item C, conduct a public hearing to consider and discuss and act upon adoption of an ordinance. Let me read off my paper, it's easier. Item C, conduct a public hearing to consider, discuss, and act upon adoption of an ordinance creating the tax increment reinvestment zone, TERS number 3, pursuant to Chapter 311 of the Texas Tax Code, establishing the boundaries of the zone, creating a board of directors, establishing a tax increment base, and providing for other matters related thereto. Solera. Mr. Glushko.
Thank you very much, Mayor and Council. Just as a brief reminder, at the...
Let's hang on just a
Yes,
moment.
sir.
I think a few people are stepping out. You bet. Safe travels to those of you who are headed home or other places far afield. Our acoustics are not great, so if you're going to chat, please step outside. They're making their way that way. All right.
Okay, thank you very
Alex.
much. Mayor, we're picking up a certain item that we left off at the June 16th City Council meeting. At that time, the Solara project was approved. It's the 177 acres you see here that was annexed. A plan development was approved, and also a development agreement related to the project was approved as well that included TERS and PID terms. At that particular meeting, you also approved resolutions to have a public hearing to create TERS number 3 for the Solara project, as well as you approved a resolution to set a public hearing to create a TERS. And so the next two items on the agenda are the public hearings and the consideration of the creation of the TERS and the PID related to the Solara project. First up is Natalie Hall with Pettit and Ayala to provide some information about TERS number 3. And following that, we'll hear from Jennifer Sloan with Municap about the creation of the PID.
Ms. Hall, welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor and Council. My name's Natalie Ayala Hall with Pettit and Ayala out of Fort Worth. We've had the pleasure of doing some TERS consulting with the city before on TERS 1 and 2, and so I'm here today to present on TERS number 3, as Alex mentioned. Because this is a public hearing for the creation, I will just briefly go over what a TIF or a TERS is, go into the specifics of this particular zone, and talk about the next steps. I do always like to point out that the creation of a TIF or a TERS, the inclusion of your property in it does not change your tax burden. It is not a new tax on development. What it does is it redirects a portion of the incremental tax generated above and beyond that base into a special fund to be spent on improvements within the zone. The TERS creation process is governed by Chapter 311 of the Texas Tax Code, which outlines the various procedures for creating or amending a TERS. There's two main documents, the creation ordinance, which we are asking you to make a motion on tonight, and there's also a TERS project and financing plan. The TERS ordinance establishes 5 key elements: the boundary, the term of the TERS, the composition of the TERS board, the city's participation rate, and it does include a preliminary project and financing plan, which is included as Exhibit C of the ordinance. Once the TERS has been approved, then a final project and financing plan would need to be approved by the TERS board and then City Council by separate ordinance. These are the proposed TERS number 3 boundaries. You can see they do encompass the development at hand. They also encompass an easement on Hackberry Road there. The idea is that we did want to include enough property along that road, you can see just north of Van Alstyne Parkway, to be able to fund public improvements along that road with increment generated from within the boundaries of that development in the future. The goal of TERS number 3 is to encourage private development that will yield additional tax revenue to all the taxing jurisdictions. The proposed boundaries do encompass approximately 187, 176 of those being the development, and then approximately 10 more for that easement, located within the city limits and the ETJ of the city of Van Alstyne. The base value would be as of January 1, 2026. The Chapter 311 does stipulate that the TERS base value is the year in which the TERS was created. The base value would need to be confirmed by Grayson Appraisal District. It's a 35-year term expiring December 31st, 2061, and we are proposing that the city participate at a rate of 46.5% of its real property increment generated within the zone, and that is only from the maintenance and operations portion of its tax rate, which, as you know from an earlier agenda item, is in line with the city's policy of only participating at the M&O rate. The anticipated development, you can see here the different colors denote the different lot sizes. This is the anticipated development in terms of future taxable value. You can see here the 50-foot lots start at $450,000 all the way to $600,000. That is assuming 2026 taxable values. You can obviously see that the projected completion date is 2030, 2033, 2036 in different phases, all having a combination of those different lot sizes. We estimate that at full build-out, the taxable value will be approximately $331 million for 450 or 53 houses. Again, for the participation, we're anticipating or proposing 46.5 of the M&O rate. With that anticipated development that you saw on the previous slide, we anticipate that that will generate approximately $20.9 million in TERS revenue to fund the project costs over that 35-year term. You can see the net benefit for the city of Van Alstyne alone is $47.5 million, with the net benefit for all the different taxing entities. Particularly, the ISDs are always a big winner here at $145 million for a total net benefit to all the taxing entities at just under $250 million. The proposed project cost of that $20.9 million that we anticipate will be generated based on that 46.5% participation rate. What we do is we allocate that to a menu of eligible project costs. The development agreement will dictate how that money gets pulled from the potential TIF fund. All in project cost allocations would be evaluated on a case-by-case basis, consistent with those categories, brought forward first to the TERS board and then city council. So with that, I do ask that you would consider the creation ordinance tonight that would establish that boundary, the term, that 35-year term, the TERS board being made up of yourself, city council, city participation, and again, that preliminary project and financing plan. If you move forward to create the TERS, our next steps would be to have a TERS board meeting to ask for recommendation of approval of that final project and financing plan, and then we would have a second ordinance to city council that same evening. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Hall. Questions from council before we go to the public hearing? Hearing none, I will open the public hearing at this time. Would any member of the public like to address the creation or adopting an ordinance to create the TERS, number 3? Second call for comments. In case you missed, yes, sir, Commissioner Marr.
Thank you, Mayor. Just real quick, I know staff has come to the county to ask with participation a little bit. If you noticed on the, I should go back to it. Look here, don't give me a clicker, I'll use it. Oh, too many clicks. There we go.
It's a sensitive click.
If you noticed the boundary on the left side on Hackberry Road, that Hackberry Road is on the master thoroughfare plan that the county has created through the MPO, and eventually one day should be a 4-lane road, but the staff has come to the county and inquired at this point about participation kind of in that route, to where it would be we may participate just to the acquisition right away and to the build of the concrete 2-lane concrete road to get from 121 or Van Alstyne Parkway up to that development. And that has not been finalized, of course. It's still just a proposal, but there is interest from the county in that participation, just so everybody's aware going forward. Alex, anything else I need to talk about? We're good? Okay. Thank you.
So, quick question for you, well, maybe a question in general. So are you suggesting the county should be a member, included in the TERS and a member of the board?
If that is agreeable between the city and the county, there is a potential for that.
Okay, do we need to take action on that tonight, or we can adjust later? Thank you. Okay, we would welcome your participation and dedicated.
It would be a small amount,
Yes.
just to cover the road, but I think it would.
Every dollar helps, yeah.
It would help out this development, but it also help out our residents in the county, obviously traversing to that, to get to 121, so.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. In case anyone in the audience is about where I was a year ago on TERS and they're not expert on what TERS really does, Ms. Hall kind of explained it, but we still collect the same amount of tax that we would and as the development builds out. But some portion of that tax that is over and above what we get this year because it's being developed with homes, some portion of it is set aside and must be reinvested in that neighborhood inside those boundaries. So the money's still coming to the city, it's just dedicated at 48-some% of the M&O rate to go back into that neighborhood, including Hackberry Road, and do other amenities. We can use it for water, sewer improvements, those kind of things as well. So don't want anyone to think that developer or the homeowners are getting some kind of tax break because of a TERS. They're still paying the full amount. It's just dedicated as to where we can spend it as a TERS board. Any other questions or comments? Anyone else from the public wish to make comment? Mr. Hendricks? Board members typically are the city council?
It is in the ordinance. Currently, I believe it is the city council sitting as the TERS board.
Yes. And if the county joins in, we would invite Commissioner Barr or his delegate to be part of the TERS board as well. I don't believe that's typical. The question was a local resident.
Generally, yeah, generally we'll see the council appointed as the TERS board. The TERS boards, just like council, are subject to Open Meetings Act and, you know, all those things.
Yeah, you might discuss it with Commissioner Marr as far as how you can participate if the county chooses to participate in that. I think Ms. Hall.
I'll have to look at that. Typically, it's the council, so that's going to be.
Ms. Hall?
a pretty loaded question.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yes, they could legally, according to, I'm not an attorney, but the statute does allow for the board composition to allow for residents. However, this particular ordinance is written in such a way right now that it designates city council to be the board.
So can you provide that legal statement?
I think she
No,
said
I'm
they
saying
can.
They can. So the statute allows for them to, but the Van Alstyne language that in the ordinance that is being proposed, you could make an amendment to change that at this moment. But the way we have it drafted right now is that the city council and the mayor would serve as the TIF board, and then any additional taxing entity would have the ability to add a member to the board as well.
Thank you, Ms. Hall. Any other questions or comments from the public?
Just a quick question, is that Thompson?
It is. Any other questions or comments from the public? Seeing no one seeking recognition, I will declare the public hearing to be closed at this time, and it's up to council to consider and take action. Council members, that have further questions or comments? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Got a motion to approve the, get back to my page one here. Adopting, yeah, got a motion and a second to adopt an ordinance creating tax increment reinvestment zone 1 pursuant to chapter 311. Number 3, TERS number 3, thank you.
Motion and second, I'm sorry.
Dusty made the motion, Councilman Thomas seconded the motion. Thank you. Any other comments or questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstaining? That motion carries 5 votes to 0. Thank you all very much for the participation. We have a 4th public hearing tonight. Conduct a public hearing to consider, discuss, and act upon adoption of a resolution creating the Solera Public Improvement District and ordering public improvements be made for the benefit of such district in response to a petition filed by Paul O'Daniel and an individual Mary O'Daniel and individual, William Thomas Witherspoon and individual, Sandra Stein Witherspoon and individual, and Van Alstine 93 Acres LLC, a Texas limited liability company, requesting the city of Van Alstine create the Solera Public Improvement District to include property owned by the petitioners. Solera. Aye.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Jennifer Sloan. I'm with MuniCap. We're your PID administrators. And I'm going to just kind of quickly go through what kind of the kind of outline of a PID, and then I'll just briefly touch on the development. So Chapter 372 of the Texas Local Government Code is what governs the creation and operation of a PID. It's basically a financial mechanism that can be used to pay for public infrastructure through the issuance of bonds, COs, or you might have a reimbursement agreement with a developer. So the PID petition and PID creation process starts with the information being kind of brought to council, brought to the city to kind of give them an idea of the project. You have a feasibility study. You might have then, you're going to submit that notarized petition to the city. Then the drafting of the development agreement. Council action begins with the acceptance of the PID petition and setting of the public hearing, and then tonight's action of the public hearing. If you choose to approve it, it will then be filed with the county clerk. As we've already seen, here's just kind of the outline of the boundaries of the PID. And it's 176 acres approximately. It's 3 phases of development at this point, with 3 different lot types, with a total of 453 single-family residential units. The proposed authorized improvements include roadway, water, sewer, and drainage, for an estimated cost of $28,782,000. Following this creation, we would go through a levy process where we would provide a preliminary service and assessment plan. That would come before council. Y'all would approve that plan, set a public hearing, mail notice, and publish in a newspaper the action to then approve an assessment ordinance. With that, are there any questions?
Questions for Ms. Sloan from council before we go to the public hearing?
It doesn't need to include Hackberry?
No, sir. I think that's something that was added for the TERS to allow for additional increment.
They don't have to be the exact.
No, they don't have to no, they don't have to be coterminous.
So I'll make a comment, and please correct me with where I messed this up. So a PID is basically an assessment paid by the homeowners.
Yes.
They can pay it up front when they buy the home, they can amortize it with their loan, they can pay it out over time. They have lots of options, but it's basically an agreement between the homeowners and the developer for them to pay extra money to be spent in that development.
That's correct.
TERS money can then be spent to help offset some of that.
Correct. Yes,
So a lot of times you'll hear the phrase PID TERS. They're really 2 separate things, but they often go together.
yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, the TERS money can be used as a buy down on the assessment.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from council? This time I would entertain any comments or questions from the public regarding the proposed PID for Solera. Second call for comments or questions. Seeing no one who seeks recognition at this time, we'll declare the public hearing to be closed and we'll move to council's consideration and action. Any further discussion from council? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve from Councilman Neal. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Councilman Thomas. Any discussion on the motion itself? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed or abstaining? That motion carries 5 votes to 0. Thank you, Ms. Sloan. We'll move now to item 5, the consent agenda. Would any council members like to remove anything from the consent agenda? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion regarding the consent agenda in total.
I make the motion.
Ryan, Dusty has moved to approve the consent agenda, and Lee has seconded that motion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed or abstaining? That motion carries 5 votes to 0. Moving to individual consideration items. Item A, 6A, consider adopting an ordinance amending the development agreement between the City of Van Alstyne and Scorburg Acquisitions II LLC regarding the Solera development located on the north side of Van Alstyne Parkway, FM 121, east of Hackberry Road. Alex, welcome back.
Thank you very much
Been
for
so
having
long.
me, sir. And again,
Chief, thanks for coming.
This Solera project, thanks to Ty and Chief for being here for the building code adoption. I would consider this a minor amendment. Since the development agreement was approved by the City Council in June, we're proposing a couple minor modifications, all which I believe are net beneficial to the city. As you may recall, when Solera was approved, it was conditionally approved with the rerouting of the spine road that was formerly aligned along Willow Lane and then was oriented more to the north. The development agreement has been amended to reflect that new road alignment. We've also incorporated a PSPA, which is Professional Services Payment Agreement, which allows for reimbursements by the developer to city for costs incurred for creation of TERS and things of that nature. We did make modifications, legal modifications to the development agreement to modify the TERS base year, as well as the timeframe in which the city does need to amend our CIP. And then we've incorporated a couple other additional standards as safeguards, prohibition of non-family friendly uses, and reinforce some of the architectural requirements that were within the plan development into the development agreement document itself, as well as provided some requirement for sales tax sourcing for properties, for builders when they buy properties within the development to source that tax to the City of Van Alstyne. So staff is supportive of all these terms and recommends approval.
Thank you, sir. Questions for Mr. Glushko from the council?
What is non-family friendly uses?
Within a context of our standard boilerplate legal development agreement document, there is a section that includes non-family friendly uses. And David may want to jump in, correct me, but certain uses are protected by the state and they can't be enforced through zoning. But with an agreement with the developer, they can sort of self-restrict certain uses like sexually oriented businesses, vape shops, payday lending, and there may be a few others of that sort that the developer could self-restrict. And although this is primarily a residential property, and we're not likely to see any of those commercial types of uses, I don't think that either the developer or the city finds it to be inhibiting to include them just in case.
Great question, thank you. Any other questions or comments? I know staff's been working on this for a long time, so I complimented P&Z earlier and thanked them for their time. Thanks to city staff for the work they've done on this and all the developments we've seen in the last 6 or 8 months or longer. Would entertain a motion from council on this item.
Make a motion, we approve the amendments.
Got a motion from Councilman Williams to approve. Is there a second? Councilman Thomas has seconded the motion. Any further discussion on the motion itself? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed or abstaining? That motion carries 5 votes to 0. Understand item B has been withdrawn. The fence.
Yes, sir. The applicant has requested a postponement, and should they submit their request for a fence variance, will be brought back to the city council at a future meeting.
Thank you. If there's no objections, we will take no action on item B. Hearing none, so ordered. Item C. Yep, thank y'all. First reading of a resolution authorizing the Van Alstyne Community Development Corporation to enter into an economic development performance agreement with Myth and Ember Coffee House and expending funds not to exceed $45,000 for improvements to 233 East Marshall Street for new and expanded business enterprises.
Can I ask a question real quick before we start?
Yes, sir.
Have we ever had a first and a second reading before?
So under chapter 505 of the Texas Local Government Code requires on these, any item over 10,000 from our Type B corporation, have a public hearing and a 60-day notice and approval by the city council as well.
I get that, but We haven't had one since you've been here, Ryan, have you?
No, and we've had items over $10,000,
I've been here 10 years and I've never had one.
and I've never done it for a second.
I didn't hear anything.
New leadership,
Just checking.
new leadership, very good.
Yep. Hey, Mayor, if you read the second one as well, and
I
then we'll
will.
jump to the item.
Item D on the agenda is second reading of a resolution authorizing the Van Alstyne Community Development Corporation to enter into an economic development performance agreement with Myth and Ember Coffee House and expending funds not to exceed $45,000 for improvements to 233 East Marshall Street for new and expanded business purposes. And yes, I did look at state law, and we are allowed to do first and second readings at the same meeting. Item E is consider adopting a resolution authorizing the Van Alstyne Community Development Corporation to enter into an economic development performance agreement with Myth and Ember Coffee House and expending funds not to exceed $45,000 for improvements to 233 East Marshall Street for new and expanded business purposes. Mr. Grisham.
Thank you, Mayor. I know you're tired of reading, so, good evening, Mayor, Council. Good to be with you tonight. So what this is you know, the Community Development Corporation, which is our Type B corporation, has grant money set aside for businesses for expansion. And we'll talk a little bit later in another presentation about how much the CDC has given out over the last few years. But this particular project is actually Myth and Ember, so some of you may know that they currently lease the space that they're in now, and their lease is out in June of 2027, and they have purchased a building across the street, which is 233 East Marshall Street. And they are putting in quite a few improvements, well over $200,000 of investment, including a new 750-gallon grease trap. I know that's been a conversation people have talked about. But as part of this agreement, we are required to do a performance agreement for these dollar amounts. We've been working with Bryce, and has been a great member. You can actually see a couple of renderings here that he provided of what this would look like inside. I think they're really tying into history and really making this look very classy, which I think is the look that we're all going for. But the board did take this up. Our attorney, Jeff Moore, drafted the performance agreement. And they, one little typo date here, they technically have until June of 2027 to receive a certificate of occupancy. They do hope to be in before that date, but we built in a little extra time. As we all know, construction can change quickly. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you, Mr. Grisham. Questions from council?
Yeah, the amount for the grant of the 45,000, was that just, what kind of pro forma or what kind of metrics did y'all use to come up with like the need there to match that with those funds?
Yeah, so that was a good question. So that was actually the dollar amount they requested. So that was 45,000. But, you know, again, it kind of breaks down, and I kind of go through the list, but quite a bit of it is the cost. I mean, most of it, as you'd imagine, is interior, wood, work on the wood flooring. But this one, again, the board did not want to do, essentially, they're doing 50%, which they would have to, based on the agreement, spend 90, but again, they're going to be spending over 200. The grease trap alone, just so you know, is over $50,000. But that is what they applied for. I think early on in the process, we all know they purchased the building. I think at that time, they didn't really realize they needed to do a grease trap. So ultimately, this will help pay for that, but really the improvements are across the whole building.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? Would entertain a motion regarding item E on our agenda.
Come on, guys, I'm going 1 second.
I'll make a motion to approve
Councilman Neal has moved to
the
approve.
resolution.
3 seconds.
And Councilman Thomas has seconded the motion. Any further discussion on the motion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? That motion carries 5 votes to 0. Thank you. Don't go too far. Item F, first reading of a resolution authorizing the Van Alstyne Community Development Corporation to enter into an economic development performance agreement with Elaine Schatz and expending funds not to exceed $116,000 for improvements to 224 East Jefferson Street for new and expanded business enterprise. Item G is very similar. Second reading of a resolution authorizing the Van Alstine Community Development Corporation to enter into an economic development performance agreement with Elaine Schatz and expending funds not to exceed $116,000 for improvements to 224 East Jefferson Street for new and expanded business enterprises. And item H, consider adopting a resolution authorizing the Van Alstine Community Development Corporation to enter into an economic development performance agreement with Elaine Schatz and expending funds not to exceed $116,000 for improvements to 224 East Jefferson Street for new and expanded business enterprises. Mr. Grisham.
Mayor, you'll be pleased to know that was the last reading of this evening.
Thank you.
So this item is another exciting project that we're having here in downtown, is a building actually owned by Elaine and Aaron Schatz, I believe.
Yeah.
As you know, Burnt came in here and has really just killed it. They shared a lot of numbers with us. I think they're bringing in people from all over. I personally have been in several cities, and when I say Van Alstine, people, they talk about Rail Yard, they talk about Burnt. So they have really helped drive traffic, which is what the goal is. You have to have some kind of anchors, and then that feeds off into where people are walking around the downtown. And do you have a point?
Since they opened, over 48% of their customers have been from outside of Van Alstine zip code.
There you go. So this project was brought to us. We met with Aaron and his team, along with Burnt, James Harrison, and they have some big plans for this building. This would be finishing out the second floor. As you can read in the staff report, they're adding stairs, adding 2 bathrooms, installing new electrical system, new plumbing, finishing out the second floor space. As a part of this agreement, since it's a larger dollar amount, which is what they requested, the board on this particular one, because of that dollar amount, asked them to remain in business for at least 5 years. So that is a requirement for this particular project. They were okay. Technically, this is really the building owner, but Burnt is, they're locked and loaded and ready to go. I will tell you, the mayor is aware of this. We've had other cities that I won't mention that are further north of us that have tried to kind of steal away some of these concepts. So this is a competitive, deal. They were offered 6 digits in other cities, some of these same places. So we feel like this is a big investment. They have to have a CO by December of 2026, by December 31st, is also a requirement. Just so you know, these performance agreements, the law is 3 requirements. One is there's some kind of job performance. There has to be some kind of investment number. And the third is there has to be some clawback provision. That's what the law states. So Jeff Moore, he wrote the book on Type B corporations. So these agreements address all of those, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Joey. Questions from council?
So the clawback that you're talking about is in regards to the 5 years of occupancy?
Yes, if they don't meet that, then it would the money would be paid back.
Just the remaining balance? Would there be interest? How would that operate?
I believe the full, I have to double check that. I think it's the full amount.
Okay.
Another thing, I know somebody had a question on social media. Paige is our, she's a little bit younger, so she understands that more. But there were a lot of questions about, how does the board look at these in terms of value to the city? Well, what I would say is you're going to get, number one, you're getting more sales tax, but you're also getting a huge investment in these buildings, which drives up the property tax collections that we get. The value of these buildings goes up. And down the road, when some of these folks may leave way down the road, they don't have to put in a grease trap. They don't have to do all this work. It's been done for them. So these are adding significant, you look at just 2 projects here, that's over $500,000 of investment in the downtown alone. And that's I think speaks to the work that's been done here by council and city manager and staff.
Other questions or comments from council? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion regarding item H.
Make a motion to approve.
Dusty has moved to approve, and second from Zach. Any further discussion on the motion?
I just think it's awesome that, people are wanting to invest downtown and stay downtown and grow. So I think it's awesome.
Agreed. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed or abstaining? That motion carries 5 votes to 0. Item I, consider adopting an ordinance approving a budget amendment to the Van Alstyne Community Development Corporation fiscal year 2026 annual budget.
Yes.
Mr. Grisham.
Oh, so I need to go forward here. So these items, so we're required to come back for budget amendments. Well, there we go. So for, any kind of budget change across the year, I've been working with Sherry. I appreciate all of her help on this. So we're asking for, actually, there's two items tonight, one for the EDC, one for the CDC. The EDC request is moving from the original 529,202.54 to $535,594.04. And the CDC is going from $509,701.78 to $645,191.83. The big change on the CDC is the amount of money for the grants, so that explains the big change there. And I think on the EDC, just some minor adjustments across the year, which are pretty commonplace. We also expect on the EDC, you can see there on the right, two properties, as you know, we'll talk about that in just a second, the APS project, the 9 acres, as well as Airview AC, which we hope still will close tomorrow. So that will bring in around $2.6 million for the EDC and the sale of those two properties.
Questions from council? So I have one on the CDC side. Is there a fund balance?
Yes,
I mean, this is.
Yes, good question. Yeah, so it is coming from the fund balance, correct. Both the EDC and CDC are in good financial position, so we're able to pull from the fund balance.
Okay, because we're looking at a budget, but not a balance sheet. There is a balance sheet out there that would support this kind of bump up from 1 year. Thank you. What, do you know offhand approximately what the fund balance will be after
Sure, do you have that top of your head?
this, at the end of this fiscal year, once this, if this is a, for CDC, standalone? So if we approve this, they've still got $900K in the bank. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Would entertain a motion regarding item I.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Got a motion to approve. Is there a second? It was Councilman Neal and Councilman Thomas seconding the motion. Further discussion or questions on the motion itself? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed or abstaining? That motion carries 5 votes to 0. Item J, consider adopting an ordinance approving a budget amendment to the Van Alstyne Economic Development Corporation fiscal year 2026 annual budget. I think we just saw that presentation. Any questions on the EDC side? Would entertain a motion for the EDC budget amendment. Got a motion from Councilman Thomas,
I'll second.
and seconded by Councilman Williams.
E. Williams.
Dusty Williams, thank you. I should use his first names, I suppose, so I don't stumble over them. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Or abstaining? That motion carries 5 votes to 0. Item K, consider adopting an ordinance approving the Van Alstyne Community Development Corporation fiscal year 2027 annual budget. Mr.
Okay,
Grisham.
now we can go back again here.
Okay.
So, as you know, the EDC, CDC budgets are required to be approved by council at least 60 days before the new fiscal year, so we're early. I know Sherry's been working hard on the city budget, so we get to go first. Ours is obviously a lot simpler, so that's the good news. But I did want to go over some brief updates, just to kind of talk about what's, I came on board back in January, and we got a lot of, back to downtown, a lot of exciting things happening. Some of the industrial stuff, Airview, I mentioned that hopefully will close tomorrow. That's a major expansion of a homegrown business, which is a major win for us. Again, all of these companies have options where they can be, and to keep them is very big. We expect LaCour to do some expansion here in the near future, possibly 50 to 60,000 square feet additional, which means additional jobs and investment in the community. APS, obviously that's the one just approved. I was with them this morning for a site visit. They're super excited. Their team was here. They're folks from Atlanta, and they're blowing and going. They're working now civil engineering. They'll start working with Alex on kind of moving through site plan, building permitting. So all that will be in short order. The goal is still that they'll be open. They would love to be open by mid next year is still their goal, but great company. Allen Commercial, they opened fairly recently. and their 27,000 square foot building. We think they will continue to expand on their 7 acres there. And then obviously Kirby Smith is very close to opening here. We're anxious for the sales tax collections, but as a company, I think we're getting a good one based on their track record. So we're excited on that one. There we go. And then Big D, that obviously happened. We were able to work off the, Alex was working on that as well from the city side on economic development agreement, but they'll open sometime probably March of next year. So that's another big win, another sales tax producer. Just some other things that we've done. We have the new aerial maps, which you see here. We put that together. Obviously developers and people want to see maps and what's happening in the area. So I feel like this map, Alex, special thanks to him for, planners are so good at looking at the details that we often overlook. So we always catch things that we wish we'd have done, like a shade of color, but we just know for the next time that we know what we need to enhance there. Just from other updates, I mentioned the grants. So over the last 3 years, the CDC has given out over $313,463 in local grants. Most of that, again, in the downtown area, so continuing to invest in the downtown. We have a new website, which maybe a month ago went live, so that's very critical to have a good website. We also, thanks to Paige Boatman, she's put together a good quarterly newsletter to keep everybody up to date. I always believe that transparency is a critical component in communication with the public, the council, the board. I think that's a critical component to explain. There are obviously some projects we all work on that we can't really talk about, but as much as we can, we like to put it out there what's happening. So another exciting thing is we just closed up the submittals for the Diamonds and former First Baptist Church property. I have gone through some basics, but that will come to the board soon. It will come to council. We hadn't even had a chance to look at the details, but some of the groups, you'll be very impressed. They're very good developers, and I think there's some exciting plans coming for us to review on that 1.5 acres that we own right here around the corner. So we'll be talking about that with you very soon. And then that leads to the budget discussion tonight. So this is really just high level. I can get into more details, but the CDC budget request this year, the board approved $909,783. The big change here, obviously, from last year is a much bigger chunk of money for the grant program. The board approved I think it was $366,000 for this program. It's very robust. I will also tell you that there is a subcommittee under the board right now who is updating the grant program as we speak. Josh Sweet has really done a good job. He put together a very, very long, just very good, he really took it, which I love board members that just take it and run with it. But he and Rick and Lisa have been on this committee, and they're coming back with really kind of a tiered system on the grants, because some of these are much smaller. Some of these are going to be, somebody needs a sign that's $5,000, and then all the way up to some of these that you're seeing tonight, which is $100,000, $200,000, $500,000. So it's more of a tiered system, so that I think that everybody, it's easier to read. I didn't have a hand in the current, not throwing anybody under the bus there, but it is a little bit hard to read, and some of the language is a little, it goes back and forth and not really consistent. So this will really clean up a lot of that stuff, and that should be approved, I believe, at the next board meeting in August. On the EDC side, I'll just go ahead and cover that. The budget is $621,907. A lot of the payments, as you know, we have debt service on both sides. We have the debt service on the EDC side is the land, and on the CDC side, it was for the bonds to purchase the Diamonds and First Baptist Church property. Most of the other categories were relatively the same. Again, the big change is the grants. The board understands that these are critical, and that's why they wanted to make a bigger investment. Just so you know, last year the board only had about $30,000 for that particular category. I think that was a little shift from previous years when it was a lot higher because of probably some of the bonds, some of the debt service. But again, the board felt, given that we're going to have an increase in sales tax, Again, we're going to be getting Big D Lumber in, which will be a boost. We'll be getting Kirby Smith, that's a boost. As one other final point, each of these also has some incentives that are already built in. So we have a piece of the Big D Lumber Economic Development Agreement, so we have some sales tax rebates for that. So some of that is in there as well. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions, Mayor, Council.
Thank you, Joey. Questions for our CDC and EDC Director? I appreciate your proactive approach, you and the board, in looking at retaining and attracting businesses. I think that's critical to our future, so thanks for, and I know we've got to get their attention before we can talk money with them, so.
Yes.
There is probably.
It has spurred. And one thing I did want to say, I don't want that to back to Ryan's point earlier, to let that go by with people, without people noticing, is you should pat yourselves on the back in this community because you have invested. I've been in this business now for 26 years. I've got the gray hair to prove it. But I can tell you that every downtown that I worked in, whether it was in Granbury, Columbia, Mississippi, Hutto, Texas, Irving, Texas, anytime you have public investment, private investment follows. That is the recipe. And the city of Van Alstyne has invested over $30 million in the downtown over the last few years. And look at what's transpired. It's an envy across the whole area. Anna doesn't have a downtown, as you know. Melissa doesn't have a downtown. Van Alstyne is the place that has the downtown, the motif, if you will. And that all goes back to the leadership to do these things. So I applaud you. That happened before I got here, but I'm able now to help with these relationships and to continue to build on the history and to build on what the citizens and neighbors and the city council and the board want.
Thank you, sir. All right, questions, comments? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion regarding item K, which is the CDC budget. The time for public comment is ended, but I will.
I just want to know where this money comes from.
Sales tax.
Yes. Yeah, we have a separate sales tax.
Entertain a motion regarding the CDC budget for FY '27.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Ryan has moved to approve the proposed budget. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Dusty has seconded the motion. Any further discussion on the motion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed or abstaining? That motion carries 5 votes to 0. Same question for the EDC Corporation budget.
Motion to approve.
Zach has moved to approve that proposed budget.
I'll second it.
Ryan has seconded the motion. Any further discussion on that motion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed or abstaining? That motion carries 5 votes to 0. Thank you, Joey. City Managers Report, Mr. Jones.
Have a lot of reporting this evening.
Indeed.
You can make it short if you like.
Each month, I'd like to point out a particular employee that does a lot of hard work in our city and deserves some recognition. This month, I'd like to call out Candy Hessel for all the work she did on the 4th of July. Her day started very early in the morning on the 4th of July in what we call Operation Herding Cats, where she put the parade together and we marched a whole bunch of people through the heart of downtown. Following that, she had coordinated the Liberty Market, which was absolutely overwhelmed with shoppers that day. We hope to make that particular operation 2 or 3 times as large in the future. That was followed by a concert in a central social district and then culminated the evening with a fireworks show. So Candy probably started about 6 in the morning. Probably got home about the same time the very next day, and she deserves a recognition by all of us for an exceptional job.
Indeed.
And
Thank you.
for all those that participated to make the 4th of July a very special day here in Van Alstyne. Joey referenced the investment in downtown Van Alstyne. I'm pleased to announce that we poured the final segment of concrete on our downtown revitalization program about 2 weeks ago, and we were able to reopen Main Street at Jefferson. So all of our roadways from this project that really commenced in about 2019, and you saw it first on May of 2021 when we opened our park just down the road here, Central Social District Park. We paved Van Alstyne Parkway from the railroad tracks to Waco. We paved Preston from Van Alstyne Parkway down to just south of Marshall Street. We've redone Marshall Street, and now we've redone Main. We finished the parking lot behind City Hall, adding about 12 more parking spaces to that, and moved all of our city vehicles to the rear of the building. We've added 2 parking lots into downtown, 3 if you count the one right across from us, to be able to accommodate the wealth of people that are visiting in downtown Van Alstyne. There's 19,000 that visited Burnt in its first year of operation. And with that investment, we still have a lot of details to be able to complete our downtown project. One is the removal of the power poles and the overhead lines. We are going to start that portion of the project with TxDOT's permit approval to install a couple of poles on Waco. We have to bring power up Fulton, and once that's there, we'll be able to take all the power poles off of Marshall Street in Maine. That will be a revelation in downtown Van Alstyne, get rid of a lot of wires that hang there. We'll be able to hang our festoon lighting over the top of Marshall and Main Street, which should bring downtown to life. We have some 14-foot tall artificial but real-looking trees on their way to us that will light up in the evening. It'll make downtown a very beautiful place to visit. We have planters that arrived today, planter pots that are way too small, so we're having to replace those with larger planter boxes. We have new park benches, trash cans. We've ordered seating for all of the wrought iron areas that will be outside dining areas. We're going to encourage our food providers to be open in the evening. So it's an amazing downtown. Burnt, soon the Emerald, Myth and Ember, exceptional looking facilities. We're seeing building owners making sizable investments. We had one come in today with a transformational project for a particular building in downtown that I'm personally very excited by. I'm anxious to see if that can come to fruition. That still has to go to the CDC with a pretty good funding request, but it would make a huge enhancement to downtown. Next week, I'm visiting with Ken Kendrick to talk about the remodel that won't end, the 2-story building on the southeastern corner of Preston and Marshall Street, to get an update on that timeline and start talking about what kind of tenants could be in the lower level of that building. So hopefully we can get an end game on that project and get that done. So downtown is getting near completion. We expect the end of August is a realistic timeline. What will definitely be done with the downtown project. I shouldn't say definitely. We hope to be done with the downtown project by fall to this year. It should be an exciting time. Last Friday, I met with WSB Engineering to discuss the process of completing the design of the Highway 75 FM 121 intersection, the overpass project. At present, the plans are at 60% design, and it's the desire of the city to have a complete set of design plans ready for let no later than May of 2027. WSB has indicated that May of '27 is a possible date to have a complete set of plans. I am now scheduling a meeting for next
The 20th,
Tuesday. Is it Monday? I've lost track of time.
Monday, the
here.
20th.
With TxDOT, we're going to sit down, WSB, TxDOT, in the city to establish critical timelines, review processes, so that we can get that project let ready in time for possible funding. Blasingame road improvements continue to move along with wastewater lines now installed. Water's being installed at present. The project's expected to be complete by February of '27. Forms and rebar are in process at the senior center for sidewalks and drive approaches into the new parking lot. The asphalt parking lot is there. Rain has been a constant issue with completing that project, but following the pouring of the concrete, the site will be cleaned of debris, will be striped for parking, sod will be installed, and then we have a landscaper on hold ready to come in and make it look pretty. With that, I'll answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. Questions for our city manager?
Yeah, the public safety facility, are we still on budget? Are we still on time? Where are we at on that?
Yes to both.
Okay.
We are on budget. We're getting close, so we're meeting regularly on budget, and we are on time to take possession of that building in October, but we won't formally accept the building, if you will, or move in or operate from it until after the first of the year.
Okay, and then do you have any updates on, and I know this isn't with the city, but the Heroes Park funding, is there maybe you know about it, Jim? Any sort of progress on that?
Only what I've heard from Mr. Jones.
I can answer the question is there is inadequate funding in there
Okay.
to build what's been proposed. We do have funding. We'll continue to fundraise. So when the time comes, we can build that park.
Perfect.
I have a question about parking where the city vehicles go behind Burnt and the rail yard. Most evenings and especially Friday and Saturday nights, that parking lot is completely full. Is there any, I don't know what parking's like at the current police and fire station in that lot, but is there a way to move city vehicles over there?
That parking lot is relatively full at the police and fire department. It would be possible to instruct city vehicles to be parked in the main parking lot in the rear of that parking lot on Friday nights, and they could stay there till Monday morning.
Yeah.
Very good point.
Yeah, I might even suggest this parking lot is probably less busy than the small one over
Yeah.
here on weekends. So park them over
It's a
here
nice
during
problem to
the
have,
week.
isn't
Yes.
it?
Yeah.
It's still a
And over there
problem, but
during
it's
the
a
week.
nice one.
Yeah, it's a very nice problem. to
Okay,
have.
anything else for Mr. Jones?
All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Get back to my agenda. Presentation. Receive a presentation from Hayden Family Capital regarding prospective residential development, including special financial districts for property located east of Old Highway 6 and Blythe Road, the Winsell Tract.
Thank you,
Irish.
thank you very much, Mayor. We have a presentation from the developer, Nick Hayden. He's in attendance to discuss the Wetzel Tract. It's the 236 acres that's on the east side of Old Highway 6 at the end of Blythe Road. Back in March, the Planning and Zoning Commission and City Council had a joint meeting where they were introduced to a few development proposals that included special financing districts. We did have a follow-up meeting in May where the City Council was briefed from Robert Hanna with Zack Tax, David Ritter with Brown and Hoffmeyer, as well as one of his colleagues, about what MMDs are. So essentially, this evening is an opportunity to continue the discussion about the Wetzel Tract, development of the Wetzel Tract, as well as the MMD. I believe what Nick will describe in a bit here is what he's done since the meeting that was held in May. I've handed out to you, in front of you, a term sheet for your review that Nick has provided. We also received as a staff a draft development agreement, but there's quite a bit of information in it, and I think maybe much to Nick's chagrin, there's still a lot of homework and research and things that we need to figure out in terms of understanding what an MMD is and all the pieces and parts of Mr. Hayden's development so that we can make an informed decision. But he's here to, I believe, brief you on the steps he's made, the progress he's made, and probably look for some direction. Then I believe we have an opportunity to discuss this in executive session as well.
Very good. Thank you, Alex.
And we're trying to queue it up right now, Nick.
Thanks, Joey. Mr. Hayden, welcome back.
Council members, thank you so much.
Thanks for your patience.
Oh, absolutely. Likewise. Anybody else have to go to the bathroom?
That's what we have executive session for.
That's right. Well, while this is going on, I'll just kind of give some background just to speed this up. But yeah, March met in the joint work session. April, we did have a work session with P&Z, got in front of them. Then, of course, had the work session with council again in May, pitching a MMD TERS combination to help finance the project. 237 acres that's currently located in the ETJ. The water CCN is currently controlled by South Grayson Sud. The sewer CCN is currently controlled by Van Alstyne. So our goal is ultimately to get the development agreement done and together with the city go to South Grayson Sud, who has not really been willing to play ball and have them not only annex this property CCN into Van Alstyne, but among others that have yet to be determined. So let's go to the clicker here. So just a brief overview. We've really discussed this several different times. I'm happy to answer any questions on it if needed. I think the purpose tonight is really to focus more on the MMD TERS and any commentary there. But this is the same concept plan that you saw last meeting, the same concept plan that P&Z has seen as well. To the right is just the proposed lot dimensions, coverage, square footages. It's really what it ends up being is a in-between between the SF60 and SF70 that is currently a City of Van Alstyne ordinance for zoning. So it sits right in between. I believe SF60 has 1,600 square foot minimums, SF70 has 1,800 square foot minimums. So all the square footages, minimum square footages are just going to sit in between that. And then the regulations are really just the current standard just repeated there. So we're going to go back here and just briefly discuss. So a couple of the things that we've discussed is, and I think this was mentioned earlier, so currently I'm proposing to build 2 lanes of Blythe from the property boundary. Well, this doesn't show it either. I don't know if we have a better aerial. That's okay. So from the property boundary, it crosses the railroad all the way over to 75. So we would build 2 lanes of Blythe concrete road from our property boundary all the way over to 75 to make, obviously it would be super beneficial to us to have a great entrance like that. Also help alleviate traffic concerns of traffic heading south. And then we're also going to have to bring water and sewer a pretty significant distance. One of the outstanding question marks that Alex had mentioned were our engineer, Kinley Horn, is currently working with the city to get a hand on those costs. I think we can still move forward with the development agreement regardless of it, because I'm proposing that the developer handles all offsite infrastructure to move the project forward. But it is one of the items that we're working with Public Works and your third-party engineer on, is bringing up that offsite water and sewer. And then this will happen after the fact, but we'll have conditional consent for the MMD, which will be an 8-month process through the TCEQ after the development, 8 to 12-month process after the development agreement is approved. And then depending on how South Grayson Sud receives the joint approach from myself and the city, that process can be quick or it can be significantly longer, but it's a process that we're willing to go through. So one of the challenges is kind of cart before the horse with this project because it's not currently in Van Alstyne CCN, in order to really get that transferred over, we really need to go forward with the city to accomplish that. There are some legal processes that we can go through by ourselves as the landowner can that just take over a year's time to really accomplish, which if South Grayson Sud won't play and converse, then we're willing to go do that, but we kind of have to know what exactly it is that we've got in order to move that process forward. So to the term sheet, which is in front of you, I really, my hope or goal is that at the August council meeting, the development agreement, which the city has the first draft of, will go before you all for approval and vote. I don't know if we'll get there or not. Part of the reason that there's a little bit of a time frame is the underlying landowner in our contract ultimately expires the day after the August council meeting. I can certainly go back and ask for an extension, trying to avoid doing that since we've had to ask for several. More my problem than your problem, but hoping that as we've conversed, it's a little bit more of a partnership to try and get that accomplished. And so the goal is to put this term sheet in front and kind of discuss any outstanding items as far as maybe the broader details go that the council members might have issue with. So of course we're annexing into the city. As I mentioned, MMD TERS, some of the flags raised surrounding the MMD where, it's going to be able to issue a tax rate. And so limiting that overall tax rate to not overburden citizens. That's on 3.B, limiting that to $3 per hundred of assessed total value. And we've kind of got an anticipated rate for the MMD of 54 cents. Well, you can read the number. I'm not going to read the whole thing out. But what that comes out to is about $2.72 per $100 of assessed value. Keeps us competitive in the marketplace, which is ultimately what actually keeps a cap on those tax rates. As we kind of scroll down, it talks about how the development, the MMD is going to have conditional consent from the city, land use single family. Some of these things are the same. As far as infrastructure, building, permits, architectural, all of those are going to stick with the current city standards. So we're not suggesting to make a lot of changes to that beyond what the lot regulations you see in front of you are. We are asking for, per a suggestion from Alex actually, to have the CIP plan amended for impact fee credits for the offsite water and sewer that's required to get there that serves our property, with oversizing to be discussed and open to. That would be point 7. Let's see here. As far as the TERS, and maybe this is now a bigger issue than it was in the past meetings that we've discussed. In order for this to work, we will need both M&O and INS, unfortunately, for this to be feasible. So we've kind of got 3 different percentage of participation from the city, depending on what kind of park donation that would be given. 35% with a $750,000 park donation, 39%. We did that because the general fund comes out positive in that scenario, so makes it look a little bit better, with a $1.5 million donation, and then 45% with a $2.25 million donation, which there's a typo there. I wish I could give you $22 million, but unfortunately not. So I don't know if there's any comments surrounding that. As I've listened to this meeting, I think we've discussed it a little bit, but open to hearing those concerns if there are any.
Thank you, sir. Questions, comments from council?
That's just on that point. I've got a couple more. I'm trying to fly through. I know everyone's tired.
Yep.
So let's keep going here. So there was also concern over the MMD extending further and kind of being its own city within Van Alstyne. So underneath point 11, you'll see we're going to limit bonds to be issued no later than 15 years from the beginning of construction. And then any bonds beyond that would have to go before City Council for approval. We had discussed some of the benefits towards the city and council to have that discretionary approval. Council can also dissolve the MMD. That's not a specific point, but any in-city MMD has the ability to be dissolved by council by a 2/3 majority vote. We can make that more direct in the development agreement, but you will have that ability to dissolve it as well. So whether you want to continue it or not, any land that would be annexed into the MMD would also have to be approved by vote from council. So there's not an ability to just annex any amount of land that you would like into it. Point 12, we discussed a little bit, but 1.3 to 1.4 miles of Blythe approved from the property boundary to Highway 75. Of course, it says improvements to be determined, but we're going to be improving sections of Highway 6 with turn lanes on our property boundary. Water and sewer, again, the city of Van Alstyne will be the provider. The city's going to work to help us accomplish getting any easements, condemning, et cetera, to get the water and sewer actually there, and then we'll be bringing and financing those elements of the project. The MMD will also be maintaining maintenance or paying for maintenance over the course of the project and really Sherry brought this up, the city would probably be the ones to do that construction since they're ultimately responsible for it, but the MMD would be funding that maintenance throughout that course. Let's see, fire and police is, obviously as we annex in, the city is going to be providing fire and police services. I touched on maintenance. So really the last item, item 18, Alex, and I can put something more thorough together for our future meeting, but the MMD versus the PID, there's a couple of reasons that I'm pursuing an MMD. When you utilize the tax rate, it has no cap on reimbursement except what the value of the homes is. So as the homes escalate in value, you can get reimbursed for more. Ultimately, my cap is going to be that 15-year period where you can issue bonds, but you can get reimbursed for a significant amount more versus a PID. And the MMD powers are broader. So you can, as an example, all of those items listed are reimbursable expenses within the boundary of the MMD. Roads, drainage, landscaping, lighting, banners, streets, it's pretty exhaustive. I don't know for what reason you would want to limit reimbursable expenses because there's already a built-in cap. I guess I'm open to that, but it's really a self-governed item. And the MMD, as far as other powers go that overlap with the city, unless specifically listed on an in-city MMD, the city would have control of that. And so in certain situations, an MMD can even do fire and police, provide those services. In this situation, the city would because you're being annexed into the city, so that power would not be available to an MMD. An MMD does not have eminent domain or condemnation powers, so that is somewhat irrelevant. And so really those powers are all pretty much contained through the annexation into the city. And we can limit things in any way that David deems is going to help restrict and make the city feel comfortable. But ultimately, as far as public-private partnerships go for whether it's just a generic single-family development or opening up a new quadrant of the city with utilities or Blythe or park funds, it's a great way that's very similar to a PID without the administrative burden on the city for developers to participate and make deals where maybe land is getting too expensive or the off-site cost to get infrastructure to the site doesn't work. And really this checks many of those boxes in my mind. It's annexing land in the city, spreading the ability for the city to fund water and ultimately control more land through that ability of making landowners and developers come into annex. And so that was the purpose of why we went forth with the MMD. And to be frank, the PID-TERS combination didn't work either. Once we were running numbers on what Blythe was going to cost, if we didn't improve Blythe, there was no project to begin with because nobody wants to come, et cetera. You've heard this all many, many times, but just to go over it once more of kind of where the MMD came from versus the traditional PID-TERS model, this was kind of the reason behind that. So that's, I would say that's a good summary of what the development agreement will contain and a lot more legalese and a lot more words and pages. And would love to hear any comments or questions you might have and see if we can't continue to push this ball forward.
Thank you.
I know everyone's exhausted, so maybe it's not the right time for a lot of questions and things like that, but.
We didn't get this much before the meeting, so we didn't get a chance to review it, but. You got something to say?
I do.
Yeah, Ryan.
So on the M&O, and that you're saying just because of the park dedication, we have to use the M&O side of the. No, not even. Unfortunately, it's not. No, whether the park fee is there or not. We could lower the total percentage if there's no park dedication, but it would still require. Then what you're looking at is something more like we ran numbers on what if it was just 60% M&O without the INS, and it was still so much lower because the power of the combination was significant. So that's my question is, with these other TERS creations, we're moving everything to the INS. Why are we using the M&O portion of, of the tax code essentially for this development? Or why do we need to with the MMD? is
Sure,
my
so
question.
part of it is the cost of the off-site infrastructure for water and sewer. It's gonna be significantly more than what it has been for some of these other projects. The construction of Blythe Road is another one, which is, a 1.4 mile, 2-lane concrete road is not cheap. And the park certainly plays into that, but that alone is not, it's not a direct, linear correlation from a cost perspective. So whether I take the park out or not doesn't necessarily
mean that you can remove the
That's
M&O
right.
portion of
Yeah. So like the jump from a PID to an MMD is a pretty drastic jump, and there's not really things in between. And the same is true with the TERS of like when you add in the INS MNO versus taking out the INS, it's not like a direct correlation kind of jump there. So it just is kind of what it is at this point.
And Robert, have you done the numbers of the effectiveness?
He has.
Okay. I haven't seen
so
those.
I don't know if he's presented those to you yet. I'll let him send it over if you want. But basically, without replacement costs, the 39% is positive $300,000 for the general fund, with $43 million in utility revenue. And then with 10% replacement cost, it's currently negative $1.7 million with the 39%, which is really my preference. The challenging part is right now we've got a value of $430,000. Could I say 450? Could I say 480 and feel pretty good based on Van Alstyne? I could, but I also want to
sell homes.
Well, no, I'm not even talking about selling homes. I'm really just talking about if I look at the market today, when we started this process, I would have told you that I would have thought the market had turned by now. And unfortunately, because of things out of all of our control, it hasn't. And so now I have to say, I can really only look at market conditions today and tell you what do I think I'm going to start at. And I can push it to make my numbers look better, but
at the end of the day,
it doesn't really feel like the right thing to do.
Gotcha.
I mean, even you saying 450 is a median value, I could go home and say, hey, I didn't read that the right way or whatever, Robert, up it to 4.5, and what's that going to do to the numbers? It's going to make them look a lot better in my favor, but that's not what I think right now.
Gotcha.
So believe me, if it's better, the builders are going to push the price. They want to make as much money as possible, so they're going to, if the market's hot and people are willing to buy at a higher price point, that's what it's going to be.
That's all I had.
Okay, can you walk us through the tax stack up for a homeowner? So what makes up their property tax, not including county school and Grayson College? but
Yes.
just-
So there's just one extra line item.
Okay.
Which is hold on, let me pull it back up real quick. Which is that 54.6287 cents per $100 of assessed value. And combined with the TERS, your total tax rate for a homeowner comes out to is $2.72 per $100 of assessed value.
So the 272 includes everybody, county,
Everything.
school, and everything?
County, school,
Okay.
everything.
So, but the MMD would get the 5.46.
Yes, so
The
what-
city still gets the 5 point,
Yes.
or 55 cents, I should say.
Well, and the TERS.
But that,
Yeah.
our 55 cents is split
For 35 years, yes.
for 35 years.
And again, not that I don't know how much it's going to change the thought process, but even as I look at the M&O and INS, part of the reason that the general fund is so low is because it incorporates the replacement costs that the city's paying at the end of the 35 years. Well, if you reset the clock, ultimately that means the development is replacing 2 sets of roads that are needed for the development in one life cycle. If you take out the TERS and then you look at replacing cost and you have 35 years of full tax revenue for the city, those numbers are going to look significantly better because the TERS has gone away. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And just so you know, that's also what the cap is. So 272 per 100 is the total all-in rate that we anticipate, and then the $3 per 100 would be a total cap. And part of putting that in there is, one, I want some movement there if something comes up. And then two is also, kind of to Lee's point, if for some reason the city of Van Alstyne property tax goes down because the state legislature does something, the MMD can step in and either raise their portion, issue more bonds, and be able to supplement services that the city, the city would have to approve all of that, but ultimately that the city may not be able to fund any longer because the state changed. It gives optionality for both parties and residents, so.
Okay. Thanks. Any other questions or comments?
None for me.
All right, thanks, Mr. Hayden. Appreciate you coming up here. It's a presentation only, so no action required. Oh, I did have one more comment. So you talked about council meeting in August. As you've seen tonight, and as you know, but just because they're here tonight, obviously P and Z does the heavy lifting for us, so.
Sure.
You'll, I know, present to them first before it comes back to council. I think you're.
Again, so they've already seen.
Right.
They've already seen all of that. So would you say you would want us to go to P and Z?
For anything in their purview, which is not necessarily the financial part, but if anything changes with lot layouts, lot sizes, anything like that.
Yeah, so, well, my understanding was, one, P and Z doesn't vote on the development agreement, but then two, that they do need to see it. So I don't want to speak for them. They can certainly, I guess it's not a public meeting, but they, hopefully they'll disagree if it's not true. That plan and those lot dimensions is what was presented to them in our last meeting.
Okay.
And so happy to do it again if that's what needs to happen, but was trying to check those boxes, so.
Yeah, appreciate that. We'll
Yeah.
leave that up to Alex and
Yeah.
city staff.
Okay, great.
If they feel that's necessary. Thank you. Item 9, mayor and council closing comments. I'll start with Councilman Neal. Ryan?
Thank you for hanging tough with us for this meeting, and just, I know it's lasted a little while, but thank you for coming out. For all the citizens that spoke and voiced their opinions and concerns, appreciate that. Staff, as always, all the work that you do, fantastic. P and Z, thank you for showing up to our meeting. We enjoy that. Because we have to endure listening to you talk for hours when we go to your meeting, so we appreciate you coming to ours. But yeah, that's it.
Thank you. Dusty?
Thank you all for coming.
Lee?
Thank you all for coming. I know action is not always the fastest, but it's the best we can.
Thank y'all. I'm still learning. Been here a couple of months now on here, and just thank y'all for y'all's participation.
Thank you, sir. I have a couple things to announce. We left out one thing that Candy did on July 4th, and that was recognize our hometown hero. So if you know Mr. Paul Hickson, he was recognized for his, not only his military service for 9 years, all of which was in Germany in the Army, retired as a staff sergeant, but also for his service in the community since he's been back home, on senior center board and with his church and many other things. So if you see Paul, tell him congratulations. We had a great event Saturday. The library reopened, so please check out the Van Alstyne Library. It is magnificent inside. So, yeah, if you get a chance, go by the library during their normal hours. I think for council and other folks, there is a ribbon cutting, I think, coming up maybe tomorrow morning. 10:30. So 10:30, thank you. So check out the Van Alstyne Library. It looks great. Children's area is amazing. Don't miss the opportunity to provide public input to TxDOT. Check out the city Facebook page or website. You'll see how to do that for our US 75 and 121 intersection. So we're on the draft plan for the, what's called the UTP, but it is still a draft plan. So TxDOT's taking public input now until August 3rd. So please go out there and tell them how you've been impacted by having to wait in line, and they need to spend money in Van Alstyne to improve that intersection. Thanks to Susan Coffer, she's worked with TxDOT as well to get our city limits population signs updated. So if you drive in from 121 in either direction, 3133, or Highway 5 coming down from the north, you will see our official population is now 9466. So thank you, Susan, for making that happen. Convincing TxDOT to do those kind of things is not always easy. And I think that is all I have. Oh,
and
there was a great event downtown.
Yeah.
The 7 shops, 7 stops. So excellent.
Awesome.
Yeah, participation from our shop owners and boutiques downtown to coordinate that event on Saturday. It was a lot of fun, and I look forward to more of those kind of things coordinated in the future. Ah, I guess that means I didn't get one.
Yeah, you didn't get one. I don't remember the total numbers, but they were higher than expected through the doors of those.
And thanks to all the citizens who came out tonight, our P and Z members and our staff. That concludes our mayor and council closing comments. We do have time for executive session tonight, so you're welcome to wait around for us, but I don't expect anything coming out of it. So at this time, council will, let's see, I have to read the whole thing. In accordance with Texas Local Government Code, Chapter 551, Open Meetings Act, the city council may meet in a closed executive session pursuant to applicable laws. Section 551071, consultation with attorney, adoption of boarding home ordinance and the Wenzel Tract Special Financing District, and Section 551087, deliberation regarding economic development negotiations, incentive agreement with UCD. You say so.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Got a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Councilman Neal. Councilman Thomas made the motion. All in favor, please say aye.
Dusty, say aye. Aye. Say aye. Aye. There you go.
Aye.
Aye.
That motion to adjourn passed 5 votes to 0. Ryan, Lee made the motion to adjourn. Dusty, Ryan seconded.
We have to come back into regular session.
And I'm sorry, we came back into regular session at 10:20.
You.
We went into session at 9:35.
Yeah, I got that.
Thank you.